Yeah.
Sounds good to me. All right, everybody, welcome. Rule 0. We're on Donovan Standard Time. You can tell we've been a little bit behind, but that's fine.
Yeah.
As always, we got Rolo. I want to call him the Godfather, but I think that's it was mostly meant to poke fun at him, but he just seems to have owned it and become more popular because of it.
Yeah.
And then, as always, Troy, Renegade Playboy.
Hey guys, good to see you.
I guess I might as well skip into it instead of the bragging about what we've been doing, all this stuff. Rolo, I know you got something to say on this one. The New York Times has been down to Orlando, Florida.
Right. The one and only Nellie Bowles, who apparently had from all reports, I don't know. I'm blocked on so many different channels, but apparently Nellie Bowles was at the 21 convention. Clearly was invited to the 21 convention. Proudly displayed by our good friend Beach Donuts. Whatever you want to call them. But so I'm like, whatever, man. I mean, what all this does is it just proves what I said back in June. And I've been dealing with this bullshit for 5 months. I mean, we talked about this in a previous episode. I'm not gonna extrapolate any more than I really need to here. But like the fact that, she was invited again, to this whole situation. I got into this a little bit in the last show that we talked about when we were just sort of clearing the air about all this shit. And I just, when I see this, I'm like, this is, if you had any more doubt in your mind about this being just a fucking hit job or hatchet job, really, by these guys, I'm not even going to name their names, but for someone who is so paranoid. I mean, even DDJ was saying, well, she could have been there and she could have brought Antifa with her, or we're living in a time where maybe her cameraman would have had a gun and shot everybody. And it's just this panic, this want to build a narrative, and it's still going on 5 months later, still going on. And now this, and now there's probably going to be a write-up. Good. I hope so. I really hope so. I hope she does a great hit piece on your convention, dude.
Well, it's not going to be
go ahead, Troy.
It's not going to. Sorry, it's not. It's very unlikely to be an extremely positive, glowing write-up, isn't it? Regardless of what happens. So,
did you see her write up on Rolo's little chat she had?
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, when Nellie Bowles, it was like 2017 or what? The thing they were using, saying you guys were buddy. When she turned you, giving a very generic description of the sexual marketplace into an advertisement for some Silicon Valley startup kit for like a testosterone testing app.
It was all that whole. If you ever want to know what the New York Times is really about, it's about the people who are sponsoring those articles. It's big tech. It's big pharma. That's what the whole thing was about. They wanted a hit piece, but they still wanted to look good so that people would come and say, "Hey, go get your sperm checked, right? Or get into TRT, whatever." And hey, man, more power to you. A lot of guys do TRT, whatever. But don't couch it in this, idea that like, oh, all these guys are just going to crying like little babies about their slow my sperm, like that's really what it was. It was an opportunity to shame men and to embarrass men and to say, look, ha, you guys have low sperm count. That's what it really came down to. But then, I mean, it's the New York Times, right? And that's what did everybody tell me? Everybody came up to me and they said, Rolo, you never should have talked to her. You never should. Even Roosh told her to go pound salt. So
put a man on the line. That was actually one of the funnier lines I've heard from Roosh.
He said go. Yeah, he said if you send a man to do the interview and I'll be happy to talk to you. That's what he said. And you know what? Yeah, maybe that was a mistake. I probably should not have talked to her and I should have listened to my own advice. But it seemed at the time she was just wanting to get a feel or a read from the manosphere about this particular topic, and she sold herself to me as a tech writer. And it wasn't until later that we discussed. Well, I found out through, actually, of all people, Alexander Cortez said, "Hey, she wrote a hit piece. I don't think it was for the New York Times, but it was something else about Jordan Peterson." And that's when I'm like, "Oh shit!" That's when I was like, that was my oh shit moment. And and the guys didn't want to have anything to do with her. Every dude down there didn't, but yet they're still posting pictures and they're still, at every single, and not just the 2018, but 2017, everybody they're happy to be there. They want to show their friends. They want to say, hey man, we're all getting together here. We're talking about these things, all this stuff that we're finally meeting in real time, and people want to do that. But you're gonna criticize me for for compromising this, and then yet you're gonna invite her down there.
Really. What's the strategy?
So this is the culmination of this whole thing. If anybody has any doubt in their mind, it's over now.
What's the strategy behind this, though, Rollo, do you think? Because we were talking before the show started, because presumably, I mean, ADJ knows that what her likely position is going to be. So is this just an effort to stir up controversy deliberately, do you think? Or what's the thinking behind it?
I bet you he thinks he's alpha enough that the rules don't apply to him.
No, yeah, probably.
Same as when he married that prostitute.
Well, and here's the thing is like, he's so oblivious to his own PR. He's so oblivious to this stuff. I keep telling you guys, I mean, it's like dealing with a 17-year-old mentality. It's like dealing with a teenage mentality about this. And he thinks it's all fun and games until, here's the thing. A lot of 400
spectators don't show up to your event the next year.
Exactly. Well, that too. Or they're they're like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I don't want my face there. I mean, that was the first, like when I did the first Man in Demand conference, when I was there with myself and Christian McQueen and Goldman and Tanner. It was just 4 of us for a week, for one day. It was just a Saturday, and we just threw it together, and we had a dinner afterwards for like people who wanted to join us. That was all. That was all we did. And my first, priority was saying, I don't want cameras to be, I didn't want to be on camera. You could record my voice when we did, but I didn't want to be on camera. I didn't want to show my face. I didn't want the guys who would go there. And we had about 75 people there I didn't want them to feel like they were on the spot or there was going to be cameras. In fact, we said that. We even had like little post-up things that said, please no cameras. I think Tanner's wife took pictures of him, but only from like the back of so you're just only seeing the back of the audience, and it was in the dark and stuff too. So that was the only cameras that were there. And like, I wanted to make sure that the security was the most important thing, because I've always been really sketchy about that. And yet here we go. We're going to complain, or we're going to say, well, you're compromised everything. You're a traitor, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude,
traitor.
Do you realize what you just did? Do you realize you just pretty much, if there's any doubt in anybody's mind up to this point right now it's gone. So
it's funny too. The military, we've had a long-standing unwritten rule. There's no cameras in the mess, the place where everybody goes to drink. No cameras in the mess. And this reminds me of that rule where all of us held on to that. You can act like a damn fool, but there's no evidence of it. And that's the whole reason. So you can have discretion. You can be yourself and not worry about the repercussions as long as nothing gets hurt.
Yeah.
And then this reminded me of when we'd bring reservists onto your ship, and they're used to, selfies for everything on their goofy half-ass sails. And so they come into the mess with a bunch of cameras, start taking selfies together. Meanwhile, some old, crusty 45-year-old bosun slaps it out of their hand. The fuck out of here.
When we did, and can you guys hear me okay? I'm not using the cloud lifter today.
Yeah.
When we did the 2017 show, and I decided that I was going to show my face. I think it was after my first talk, because I did 2 talks at this one. And after my first talk, we had a guy, a very tall, well-dressed black guy. And he came up to me and was asking me some questions. Very intense guy. And I found out later that he left the convention because he was feeling like suicidal, or he was feeling like he couldn't take, like it was too much for him all at once. You know how Rich always says, like, reading my book is like, drinking from a fire hose. Sometimes for the guys who aren't ready for that, sometimes that's a shock to the system. And I think it was really kind of a shock to his system. And so that right there kind of like led, and I told Anthony this too later on. I said, the biggest danger you're going to have is not from the outside, it's from the inside. And that was a good example of that. Because fortunately the guy was like in control enough to say, look, I got to go, and canceled his hotel room and then went back to wherever he was, just because he couldn't deal with what was going on there. And I'd said, we got to be careful. We got to watch out from the inside, because there are guys that can't hang. There are guys that can't handle this stuff. And I can't be the babysitter of every guy, right? I don't know what's going on with guys. I mean, there's like I'll be talking to my friend Rugby, right? I mean, Rugby's a good dude. I love Rugby to death, but it's like he's Rugby, right? You know, there's guys who just simply can't, who aren't ready for certain information. You know, certain information is too raw and too real for them. And, you know, if you're just throwing out an event and going, hey, everybody come to my event, and expect everybody to behave and everybody to play nice with each other, or you're dealing with egos, you're dealing with the speakers themselves and the egos of the speakers themselves. And I told him this, and he thought he was being really cute by saying, oh, look, Rollo said something about the egos of all of the speakers at the convention. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's true. You're going to find people who are going to conflict with other people. If you're going to do this, you have to be the guy who manages that shit. Well, he doesn't know. He's not mature enough to figure that out. You know, he's only been doing one thing since he was 17 years old, and that's this. You know, that's what gets me. One of the things when we talked about this before with Rich is the entrepreneur thing. Like, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. They think that's easy. We just go to a seminar and suddenly I'll just call myself an entrepreneur and I'll be an entrepreneur. I'll be a businessman. I've never taken a business course in my life. I don't have an MBA, but it doesn't matter, right? Because school's all full of feminists anyway, so I don't need to do that. I can just learn. I can just watch a few YouTube videos and then I can be a businessman, right? And it's like, no, dude, you have to have that experience. You know, you have to come up. You have to fucking pay your dues. You have to cut your teeth somewhere in doing this shit. And if all you're doing is one thing, and if all you're doing is patting yourself on your back, for 10 years, that's not teaching you anything. All that's doing is like people, not telling you what you probably should be hearing. And so when people say, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur," no, you're not. And that's why
you're LARPing.
You're LARPing. Yeah, you're LARPing as an entrepreneur. And I'm not saying that there's no such thing as entrepreneur. There are. But that's very few and far between. But I think right now, particularly online, and we mentioned this in the success porn video, is people will call themselves these things and they'll start believing in the character that they build. And it's pathological. They'll start believing in the character that they built for themselves, and they don't realize what it is they're getting into. And maybe they get successful at it. Maybe they get some positive feedback. So they must be doing something right, but they don't realize that they were just basically in the right place at the right time. And they don't have the ability to adapt to bad situations or to new situations. It's like being in a. I remember being
quick thing. Did you send John a link?
Yeah, I did. John, I emailed you the link, John, if you want to come in, man.
Right. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
So, anyways, I was just going to throw. I didn't want to get too long-winded about that whole thing, but the fact that Nelly Bowles was even invited to this,
it's not the most self-aware decision.
It's like everything I think a lot of people just sort of abandoned him and that whole thing because they just don't want to hear about this bullshit anymore. And it's been like obsessive. It's like OCD. And I think that a lot of people, if you are one of the speakers, at some point you're going to see this side of him. When you tell him no, when his plan doesn't work out, when his backroom deals don't work out for him, then you'll see a side of him that me and Rich both saw. And you won't like it. You will definitely understand what I am talking about right now. Is that he is an adolescent mindset and is somewhere on the autism spectrum, and you don't see that until you see a video like I'm the president of the manosphere. You see that sort of blank Greta Thunberg stare, and you will experience it at some point. You'll experience it, but just be careful, man. Be very.
Don't you think there's a certain irony though about when people talk about the cult of the red pill or the cult of Rollo or whatever, and yet many of these guys are knowingly and willingly, effectively working under, or certainly collaborating with a guy who's publicly called himself the president of the manosphere. I mean. It just seems to me that the cognitive dissonance is just incredible between those two.
If you had any doubt about the guy's integrity, there's no doubt about it now. The guy has no integrity. If you're working with this guy, you're working with a man who has no integrity. There's nothing respectable. He's not an entrepreneur. He's not the president of the manosphere. He's just a kid who put together an event at the right place at the right time. And honestly, before I came on, In 2016, he was trying to do fundraisers on GoFundMe that were failing. He was trying to get $21,000 on a GoFundMe. He got all of $2,100 from that. So it was failing before all of this went down. And like I said, he was in the right place at the right time and positioned himself. And, you know, I blame where it's due. I was the one who gave him legitimacy. But the man has no integrity, and if you continue to
that's
work
fine.
With him,
he gave that legitimacy
you have
real quick, though.
Well, if you continue to work with him, you have no integrity. Simple as that.
All right. Here, so John, I'll send you a thing. We'll switch off to happier topics right now. Troy, this is your idea.
We actually have a topic today.
Yeah. Well, I thought it would be really interesting because obviously the purpose of the show really is to give guys actionable advice and to give them some sort of like actionable things that they can incorporate we can incorporate into our lives to improve us, you know, our prospects in the sexual marketplace, but also in other areas of our lives as well. And so I thought it'd be really interesting to have a discussion about frame, because frame is obviously talked about a lot. It's the number one iron rule of Tomasi. And I thought it would be useful just for us to ruminate on frame, what it actually is, what it looks like in reality in a relationship or in a dynamic with somebody, and how guys can basically sort of improve their frame. So that's the way I was thinking of coming at it from. Also, I think one thing I throw into to kick off is that we talk about frame in terms of sexual dynamics a lot. So, you know, I'm with a girl and I hold frame, or I go and approach a girl, you know, to get to try and generate some attraction, and I have to hold frame, otherwise she might lose attraction. Or I'm in a relationship and I need to hold frame because, you know, if I allow her to get too much of the upper hand, then she might, you know, lose attraction and the relationship fails. So there's all of that. However, I think frame can also is also very important in business situations as well, and in generally in life situations. And one there's a book that I read which I really recommend, which is called Pitch Anything, I believe. I'll find out the exact title and the author in a moment. But in that, the author describes frame in such a fantastic way in the context of business presentation, in the context of standing in front of a group of people and pitching them your ideas. So I think frame is just so crucial, not only in terms of intergender sexual dynamics, but also in terms of just the rest of your life anyway. So, I mean, I don't know if guys have got anything to chime in with in terms of how you think frame is best manifested, or what it actually is, how we actually define it. I mean, for me, I think it's all about, I think what's really important, and one thing I've been thinking about a lot recently and sort of creating content around, is the idea of understanding oneself. Because the more that you understand yourself, and the more that you're congruent with your key inner self, if you like, the more that you're able to communicate that to other people when you walk into an interaction.
Well, I like that. It's frame. One of the best ways I've had it described is frame isn't what you have, it's who you are. And I was thinking, when you're thinking that example you used of a guy who's approaching a girl who has the frame in this and he treats it as kind of a power struggle, I think that's a great example of not having frame. Because if a guy were to have frame and a girl's pulling that kind of power struggle crap, by competing with her, you're automatically putting her on your level, which is giving her, you know, half of your brain, half of your living in your head, half for rent free.
Yeah.
If you have your own frame, it's just, you have your own reality. There's a girl in front of you. You decided that you liked her and you want to get her to know her well enough to make sure that you can sleep with her without her trying to stab you in the night. And anything outside of that is just amusing, intriguing, or funny. So if she starts pulling some attitude, you're like, oh, that's interesting. I guess I don't like you anymore. As opposed to, how can I change her so she starts treating me better? It goes as far back as, I think, was it Mystery who coined the phrase about how sniper game never worked? Yeah. Like, you never get that girl. It's always about getting more girls.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really key point. It's about having a strong enough reality. And this could all sound a little bit woolly. So maybe we can try and tighten it up a little bit. But essentially it's about having your own reality and bringing people into that reality or not, rather than trying to shift yourself or to mold yourself in order to fit in with them. That's the important thing, I think.
Yeah. And I guess the one thing to add to it is it can't be delusional. Crazy people have great frame, but it's not frame in the sense that we mean it.
Yeah.
Because you have to have that certain self-awareness of that your actions have an effect on the outside world. And you have to understand that people will react to things, but you can't let it influence you to the point where you give up your own self-interest. Like, obviously, I know if I start acting completely creepy and unattractive, the girl that I'm talking to is going to be freaked out and walk away. Just by the fact that I know that means I'm not going to act creepy and unattractive, not because I'm in her frame or I'm pussy begging. It's just that I know what I want, and I know that acting this certain way or using these certain behaviors are the best way to get there. And so your reality can change based on the feedback you get from outside, but it's not the need to get validation from them. It's just knowing that, like I said, actions have consequences. If I swing the bat, it's going to hit the ball. It doesn't mean I'm a baseball beggar. It just means that I know how things work.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I made frame the #1 rule for Iron Rules of Tomasi is because so much hinges on it, and I think that when I was writing about it, I was actually studying that concept at university. Was the idea of psychological frame, like whose frame do you enter into, and how does that affect not only just your thinking, but also like the behaviors that come as a result from that. What? Do we lose? Oh, there we go. Oh my God. Oh Lord.
President of the Manosphere is here, boys. This show just got way more interesting. How's everybody doing today?
God. All right. Let me finish my thought here, and then we'll move on. Okay.
El Presidente is here.
So I was just going to say is that when I talk about frame, remember that there's two ideas. I think there's kind of, and I don't know if they're conflicting or not, but a lot of guys, when they think about frame, they either think of it in terms of like the old school pickup artistry, like Mystery used to talk about frame. And that was actually what kind of inspired me to write about it in a more in-depth fashion. I think probably other than like say hypergamy and some of the the staples of my blog and the Red Pill as it is, frame is like one of the top questions I get asked by guys is like, how do I have frame? How do I know I have frame? How do I get a girl into my frame? How do I, like it starts to become this kind of mythical, like it's almost like nirvana, right? It's like this mythical state that you have to enter into. And it's like, no, dude, you enter frame when you're dealing with your family, or like if you have a dad who's like an alpha male dad, you're probably very familiar with how frame works. If you are working a 9-to-5 job, or if you have a supervisor, you understand frame. Also, if you've been in the military, you definitely understand what frame is, because you have to enter into the frame of your CO. You have to enter into the frame of whoever is your supervisor, and that's easy. Like children understand frame like almost automatically, because if they've got a parent that's actually an active parent that's actually doing something, they understand it. They just don't call it that. They just say, well, mommy's mad, so I got to do what she says, or she's the authority. And it's a little bit, it goes a little bit deeper than that. But there has to be, when it comes to intersexual dynamics, there has to be a frame. You have to have a frame. You have to have a world that a woman wants to enter into. And frame, by the way, is not a red pill concept. It's actually a psychological, sociological concept. I didn't invent frame. Okay, got it. Okay, now we're
so
all
the book I was talking about before is called sorry. Let me find this. Sorry, it's by a guy called Oren Klaff, and it's about it's called Pitch Anything, and it's a really good book. So when he talks about frame control here. So I'll read this out. Because the first section of the book is really all about frame in a business context. And it's really, really useful, even from a game perspective as well. So he says, in any social interaction, which includes sales and business, you cannot have two different perspectives at the same time on a product or service to achieve a deal. So he basically defines a frame as being a bit like a window. And he says frame control, which is, I kind of guess what we're really talking about here, is getting people to see your highly differentiated service as high value and worth the same price by seeing it through your window. So in any circumstance, what it's talking about is saying, okay, I've got this vision of the world. I've got this window or lens, if you like, through which I'm seeing the world. And my job as the person with frame, my job as the high value guy is to encourage get other people to see it through my window as opposed to through theirs. And you'll get this a lot, actually. If you think of a topic like amogging, so alpha male of the group, for example, say you're in a bar and you're chatting to a girl, and then some other dude comes over and he takes over the whole thing. What happens there is he's imposed his frame on the situation. And if you buy into that by, entertaining it, or by sort of answering his questions or coming back at whatever he's had to say, then you're entering into his frame. And what you need to be doing as the dominant member of that group is to ensure that everything is seen through your frame, and that's the challenge that guys have.
So yeah, John, you're new on this one here, and you've got good frame. I gotta admit, watching you dunk on people on Twitch alone, you kind of see it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I already told this to my guys in the body language mastery group and the guys who watch me. I said, if you're a businessman or you're an entrepreneur, I said, this is a textbook example of somebody who's about to destroy their business. So watch this unfold. I said, I know I'm going to be right. I know this guy's going to fucking, because this guy, Rollo, you really did a number on this guy. I got to say, man, you fucking cucked the shit out of this guy. He is, okay, so everybody who is so jealous of Rollo, because that's really what it is. Everybody wants to take a shot at Rollo, but at the end of the day, nobody wrote a book so impactful on the manosphere like Rollo Tomasi. Nobody has, okay? Nobody's constantly quoting, Mystery's book or Roosh's book, and Roosh is having his fucking like broadcasted mental breakdown, and he's just broadcasting it on the internet. Nobody has anything equivalent to what you have produced, and all of these guys are jealous of you, and they've all banded together like a group of mean girls. And they're sitting at their lunch table. They're gossiping about you. I see Pat Stedman, who is like the icon of what not to be in a man. And this guy's like begging you. He's like, Rollo, you're a coward. You won't you debate me or whatever. Like, dude, you are pathetic and you're begging for scraps. And, when you really look at the lineup of guys, you have Socrates, who's a fat fuck, right? Who's huge, and he's gonna have diabetes and die in literally 4 to 5 years. Okay. You got, I was cool with this guy, but I saw him taking shots at you. So you got Hunter Drew, whose fucking wife cheated on him with his best friend while they were married, and then he takes her back. Okay. Peak alpha. Okay, great. And then who do you got? Then you got Anthony, who is self-suiciding business-wise for the entire internet to see. And then to top it off, he marries a prostitute and just is totally okay with that. And then you got Goldman, who is just like on his new scam. He's gone from selling penis statues, saying that penis statues are masculine accessories that men need to buy in order to get women. Now he's gone on this whole shaman, messiah, woo-woo bullshit. The lineup is just full of guys who, quite honestly, if you look at them and you're like, yeah, I just don't want to be any of these dudes. Okay, I know you guys harp on about this Jack Donovan guy or whatever, but sorry, this guy bangs dudes. Like, I don't want to learn about masculinity from a guy who's. Well, I'm saying still, even I mean.
How did we lose him?
Oh, we might have.
Oh,
all right. I'm gonna go to bat for Jack on this one. To talk to this guy, and I had a boss like this too when I sailed. He was gay, and if you want to see a guy who can hold frame against any girl, go watch a gay dude at work. Absolutely awesome thing to learn from.
I can't get behind a convention that is telling guys, let's be masculine, and if you want to bang some dudes, go for it at the same time. I can't get behind that message. Like, call me old school, but that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is textbook. This is what's going to happen. Okay. The 21 convention, he's probably going to rebrand it because he pretty much shot himself in the foot. Now, there is a level of echo chamber bullshit you can sell to the guys for so long. But I actually had two of my guys go who couldn't get a refund from my body language mastery group to actually spy on the event and see what was going on. And everything I heard back from was just like, basically, most of the guys who were attending were just red pill masturbators. Okay, what a red pill masturbator is a guy who's read Rollo Tomasi. He knows the iron rules of Rollo Tomasi. He's subscribed on the red pill subreddit. He can reply. He can tell you what page 57 of the Rational Male says. But this guy does not fuck, does not lift weights, does not make money, does not have a series of girlfriends that are constantly revolving around him. And he's just living in a fantasy world. And that's what I see happening here. Now, he is going to slowly but surely destroy this business. And like I said, I'm just happy to watch it. And mark my words, because I'm going to be right. And you guys will all see, the internet will see at the end of the day what is going to be the truth. And you're going to see this guy completely just nuke the business, and I'm loving it. I'm watching every moment of it and enjoying it all.
What was the turnout like at 21Con? Because I've heard varying reports about the numbers.
Dude, Body Language Mastery did more than that.
Yeah,
we're doing more than that in the chat right now.
We're doing more than that in the chat. Yeah. I think maybe with his buy one get one free sign up scam thing he had, or like, oh, if you have a friend, like, we need audience members, so bring them. I think I had one of my guys go there, and he said the first couple of days there was only like 40 people there, and I think at peak attendance there was maybe 100. And if you run the numbers, like, that's a complete financial loss. And for Stephen Molyneux to have an audience of 100 people, like, what a complete joke. Like I said, just watch and see. I'm gonna be right. His business is gonna go under, and I'm gonna sit here and laugh, because as we continue to build a quality following with quality, actionable information, not fat fucks on the stage telling you your weight doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're big fat fucker. It doesn't matter if you marry a single mom. If your girl cheats on you, it's okay. Be a man. Just fucking take her back. Who cares if you taste your best friend's dick in her mouth? Fucking be an alpha, swallow that, start a family. Like, it's just, I can't even believe how ridiculous.
Maybe we can relate. Can we can relate ADJ back to Frame then?
Yes, I was just about to say, yeah.
Exactly, because in that video, so in the President of the Manosphere video, in a sense, you could argue, you could say, well, this is a guy with Frame, because he's sitting there completely with a straight face, and he's claiming to be the president of, the Manosphere, with no sense of, I mean, I don't know if actually he was doing it in a slightly ironic kind of, or just a shit posting way. He probably was, but the way that it looks is that he's just saying this with a straight face, completely seriously. I am the president of the Manosphere. So in a sense, we could say this is good. This is great Frame, because he believes it. He's putting it out there. He doesn't, he wants people to know, and he's doubled down on the message. He hasn't sort of tried to pull back from that message. However, the problem with it is that everybody thinks he's an idiot, except for the people that work with him, or still work with him. So,
and the only reason those people are working with him, Troy, is because they want the clout. It's almost pathetic, especially that little fucking worm, Hunter Drew. That guy sold out us because he wanted the clout for his little fraternity of excellence with, I guess, other dudes whose wives cheated on them, and they took their wives back. I don't know what this guy's teaching. But that's the only reason these guys are staying with Anthony.
Well, a lot of these guys. Well, remember, and this, God, I can't believe I'm going to say that, but this goes back to what I was saying this time last year and the State of the Manosphere address. I said we need to be careful of the brand of me. We need to. Yes. And I wrote about this back in May in my essay called "False Positives." It's all about the hustle. It is not about anything substantial. Yeah, and so that's what the brand of me is. What is that? You want to know why Hunter Drew sticks with Anthony? Because he has no other choice. Yeah. He quit his day job. This is the only grift that he has right now, and he has no other choice but to make it work. He burned the boats, man. There's no going back. So he's going to throw me under the bus if it's going to in any way get a rise, right? I'm just me talking about it right now, or the rest of these guys. If you look at George Bruno, if you look at the rest of anybody else who is like solid with him right now, they all have a brand of me. They're all selling the same kind of thing. I mean, here's the thing that what I find interesting is, like, he's got all these guys on board who have their own fraternity of excellence, or they have their own group, or they have their own sales scheme of some sorts, but they're all competing against each other. Really, they're all going, and they think that this is the event that they're going to go out there and be able to. That's really what he's been doing for 12, 13 years now. I mean, even when it was a Purple Pill convention, it was just an advertising opportunity for Purple Pill life coaches. That's what it is once again. For 2 years, it was something that was based on some real content. It was based on some real messaging. Now it's back to what it was.
But is the reach even that big? Because if you're a speaker now, so you're at the event and you get your 100 people or however many it is, and then they put the video out, but the video views they're getting about 2,000 views on the video. So it's not as if
if you check his YouTube account, he's buying followers. Ryan found that out the other day. One day there was a flat increase of 1,000 followers, and I'll tell you why. It's because Rich fucking passed him in subscribers, and I guarantee that shit was eating him up. and he paid, and then now he has the same exact number of subscribers as Rich.
Yeah.
Quick chat here from Hologram, $5. ADJ, I thought that dude died of a rectal prolapse months ago. I don't know what a rectal prolapse is, but that doesn't sound like fun.
Don't look it up.
It's when your
Google.
anus collapse.
Don't.
Back to Troy's point, though, he did bring up a really awesome, the president of the Manosphere speech, very strong frame. So what's the difference between that and then the kind of frame that makes a guy more attractive?
Right. There's got pathological. It's pathological.
There's got to be congruity, hasn't there? It's got to be about congruity.
Yeah, you can't be delusional about it. He has to be aware of the effect that his frame has on things around him.
Right. I'll tell you what's interesting is their messaging right now is you need to become the patriarch. You need to become the guy who has the frame. Right. And I 100% agree with that. Frame is so much more effective when you can actually walk the walk, when you actually have a real world for women to walk into, for other people to walk into.
It's not, you don't say it and then success comes.
But when you don't have that, so when in the PUA days, one of the reasons people criticized PUAs or they criticized frame or any of the advice that PUAs were giving back then is because it was all an act, right? It was all rote memorization. It was all reading from a script, reading from a teleprompter. It was all memorize kind of, well, if she says this, then I say this. And that's what the primary criticism of old school, Mystery Method, RSD is that you aren't actually that guy. You're just aping the behaviors of that guy. And it works because you can get around women's hypergamous filters by doing that. Well, it's so much better if you're actually that guy, if you actually have some value, if you actually can, it's not bullshit. That's who you are. You're not selling yourself as a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. I'm just throwing that out there as the extreme, but you actually are that guy. You actually have some real quantifiable, qualifiable value. Yeah, it makes so much more easier. It makes cocky funny easier. It makes amuse mastery easier. It makes agree and amplify makes that so much easier when you actually have something to back it up. But so here's the thing: is when you believe in your own bullshit, it becomes pathological. And that's where we're at with a lot of these guys is they believe their own bullshit.
I think with frame, I think there is a case to be made for faking it till you make it. Basically, it's what you were talking about.
Yes,
I think there is a case, and I was talking to a client actually yesterday about this, and he was saying he'd gone through he was kind of a cocky, sort of well put together guy, but he'd gone through a bit of a dip recently with various things that happened in his life, and he just felt he wasn't. And I said to him, well, look, when you go to the club, you've got to play that to some extent. You've got to play that character, and then the momentum will build, and it will start to become real. But here's the thing, right? So why is it? So let's take another of our a great character in this space, Andrew Tate. So why is it that Tate also is incredibly self-aggrandizing, also talks himself up the whole time, also goes on about how he's a 6'4" sexy motherfucker and how he, and all the rest of it, and yet his frame seems to be significantly more congruous than ADJ's. Why is it that he is successful? Is it just because he's got the pictures of the Lambos and everything, or is there something more to it? Because I think there's probably something more to it.
Yeah, he was actually successful in the real world. He didn't fake being a fucking kickboxing champion. He's a 4-time kickboxing champion. He lives in Romania, and he's leveraged. He sells his courses in British pounds, which is very, very I think if not the strongest currency.
We're losing.
Oh, John, we lost your mic.
Well, Tate had success before he got into this realm. Tate had some kind of success before he got into this, and it's verifiable, it's quantifiable, it's right there in your face, and that is a result of his own mindset about himself. You want to talk about, definitely. You want to talk about Tate has frame for sure. To do what he's done, it requires you to have, you would have to have that, and to get to the level of success, however you want to say that, because a lot of people will say, well, he's just a digital pimp, right? I don't agree with that. I would say that he definitely has some kind of talent for this for sure, but also that he has, and maybe he learned this from his father because he says this all the time, but he and his brother definitely have frame. And it's a frame that women want to enter into, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be where they are right now. So there's something real and authentic to Tate that is lacking in pretty much everybody else that is surrounding themselves. That's why Tate can sell a program like he's selling right now, because they see that as authentic, and probably rightfully so. He's not pathological. He actually lives that life.
Yeah, well, that's the difference. Is he actually, to him, frame isn't the goal. Frame is the byproduct of him chasing his goal.
He would. I don't think Andrew would sit here and talk about, oh, how do you create, how do you get good frame or any of this kind of things, because he would just be like, well, I've already fucking got it. You know, I'm already. You know, you need to be the real deal. But here's the thing, right? I 100% believe him when he says that. Okay, I've got all of these girls now, and they're tattooing themselves and everything. But it's not about money. I had the girls before. I 100% believe him, because you could just tell with a dude like that he has got that real frame, and there's congruity there, which when you look at somebody like ADJ as an example, you don't see that same congruity, and that's what you need. So you can fake it to make it for a bit, but after that, it needs to you need to make it as well.
Fake it till you make it, but make sure that you make it, right? I mean, that's I think a lot of guys think that that's all the red pill is, or that's all PUA is, or that's all the game side of it is. Oh, there's just guys pretending to be so. They're like we can even call it LARPing from one perspective, right? But it's only LARPing. It's only an act if it's not who you are. If you're not internalizing this, if you're not becoming better, you should be becoming better. And if you've ever read The Game by Neil Strauss, there was, I think it's towards the end of the book, he was really concerned with the idea that guys would turn into what he called social robots, where they were inauthentic and all it was just an act, and they could never have anything deeper or whatever the hell, anything meaningful, that kind of stuff. But what I think he was talking about is like guys just dedicating themselves to one aspect, which is the game side. And I've said this before on 100 different podcasts and 100 different essays, is like, you have to actually internalize this. It has to be part of who you are. You have to build yourself based on this red pill awareness and build yourself into something that is authentic, because game is incomplete without red pill, and red pill is incomplete without game.
Agreed. All right, quick break here for the super chats. Mysterium Lugosi, who's the worst purple pill culprit in your opinion? And the second one is from Matt W. Thanks for the $5 super chat. He's fluffing us real good. You guys rock. Keep raining the red pills of truth, like Bruno the barber rains his special beard oil, all over ADJ when sitting in his chair. I can only assume that's a sexual reference.
What an
image. That's my guy, Matt.
Who's the biggest?
Yeah, that sounds like somebody who follows you.
He's a good guy. He's a smart guy.
I think when you talk about like purple pill guy, and I'll try to relate this to frame here. I think when you talk about guys who are what I would call a purple pill, guys need to understand, like when I use the term purple pill or blue pill, or I say a guy is a beta, it's not an invective, right? It's not an insult. I'm not trying to insult you by calling you a beta. I'm just saying that's where I see your mindset at. That's where I see you is, I'm not saying, oh, you're purple pill. I'm going to dismiss anything you have to say. No, I'll listen to what you have to say, but I've heard it 100 times, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to take whatever works for your ideology, or take whatever works for your idealism that the blue pill had instilled in you, and you haven't gone all the way. You haven't crossed over. You don't understand that there's more opportunity in a red pill paradigm than there is in a blue pill paradigm, but you still want that blue pill fantasy. You still want aspects of that, rather than realizing that is your problem. When you look at a guy like, and I hate to use Bruno as an example here, but you look at a guy like Bruno, who you give him red pill understanding. You say, read my book here, watch this, listen to this. What do you think about this? Have that red pill conversation with the guy, and it's too much, and they don't want to deal with it, and they want to go back into the matrix, right? They want to plug themselves back in, and they will find ways to actively deny what it is that you're showing them, what is in their environment, and why women are doing what they're doing. And they'll go back to that, but they'll still take a lot, they'll take the bits and pieces that they align with, or that they'll agree with, and they'll try to force fit them into that blue pill paradigm, and into that old way. Like, well, if I could use the red pill to get my perfect little dream girl wife, if I could just find out how to do that, then I could go. And the thing is like that perfect little dream girl wife is a product of the blue pill. It's a product of you believing this bullshit for so long. And after a while, when you get to a certain age, your existence depends on that blue pill being accurate, being, because that's what sustains you. That's what's given you hope for so long. And they think that, well, the red pill's nihilistic and it's hopeless. No, it's not. But what you're doing as a purple pill guy, as a guy who's just taking a little of the red pill, and it's like pick and pull, right? What you're doing is more hopeless than actually going and living a red pill aware life. It's more hopeless for you because you keep using that truth that's really hard to swallow, and you're trying to use it to get your old school, old blue pill ideals to magically come true. All that shit that Disney sold you on, all I need is the red pill, and then I can have that Disney fantasy. No, you can't. That is bullshit. That is a lie. You need to cut yourself off from that and live in a red pill paradigm. But they don't realize that because their existence depends on that. So who's the biggest purple pill guy? I mean, it's the guy who still at a later age still believes that he can force fit the red pill into his blue pill.
Hey, Bruno finally won something. Good on him.
Very much so.
That's a good point. Honestly, I think of it just like, think of a lawyer. Imagine a bunch of lawyers talking to you about, believe in these dreams, believe in these illusions. Meanwhile, you're sitting there facing a 20-year prison sentence or a lawsuit or just trying to organize your tax information. Like, I don't care about all this.
Well, look at.
I want to sort out my taxes. I want to stay out of jail. How do I do that? And if he starts selling you on legal crystals, it's not going to do you much good. And it's no different here, I find.
Well,
here's the thing, right? I mean, none of them, as far as I can see, and I mean, I could be wrong, but none of them have come up with any sort of robust alternative to the red pill, and they're all obviously aware. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and they all obviously know the material. We've all come from the same sort of space. We've all read Rollo, etc., etc. All of them slag it off, but nobody's come up with something that robustly says, actually, that's not how I see reality. This is how I see reality. This is how things work. This is what the sexual marketplace is. Nobody's come up with anything robust that does that in my view and in my experience. I don't know if anybody else knows anything different. So you get Pat talking to George Bruno on that video saying that the 21 convention did, saying, "Oh, it's the red pill is intellectual laziness." Well, okay, but what's your alternative? What's your narrative that you can give to guys that explains what goes down?
Energy and healing crystals. Yeah,
exactly. And then it comes down to sort of energy, MBTI, vibrations, all of that stuff, which is just not very tangible. It's all a bit nebulous. It doesn't really. There's nothing to grab onto.
Yeah. It's whatever you want it to mean.
Well, these crystals that came out of a factory in China. This will change your life. I swear.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna drag this back into frame here a little bit. Is if you look at like these guys who go and they'll have a YouTube channel, they'll go to the convention, they'll spout off all this stuff about I think the Patriarchs Convention really did a number on a lot of these guys because they probably believe that they can go out there and sort of profess this. We need really what they're talking about. I should say this is it's neo-masculinity. Back in 2015, it is everything they're talking about is with. I mean, maybe not maybe Jack Donovan needs to hear this, but it's neo-masculinity, and neo-masculinity was very much anti-gay, and it was Rush's old. Back in 2015, if people don't know this, back in 2015, Rush decided that he was going to have a split or a schism with the red pill, and decided that he was going to throw the red pill subreddit under the bus, and he wasn't going to, he was no longer going to be associated with the red pill. But then decided to do a video saying he was the father of the red pill. Sound a lot like the president. He's the father of the red pill, and all of you are his seed. Literally, that's what he said. All of you are his seed. And he put credit where it was due for me and for Royce, but he wanted to have this split, and he wanted to in some way say that, neo-masculinity is where we're going to go. It's all about, we're going to reject evolutionary psychology. We're going to get back into religion. We're going to be more like it wasn't really neo-masculinity. It was retro-masculinity. And we see here we are 5 years later where we're at with that, and it's nowhere. And again, another guy who's doing exactly what Anthony is doing right now, which is sort of trying to hive himself off from the manosphere, although he wants to be the president of the manosphere. He wants to have it as his thing. He wants to have it as, that's his little frame. Is like, well, he'll say that it's all about me and the Rollo pill or something like that. Yet he's anti-manosphere, but yet he's the president of the manosphere. And so what I'm looking at is this guy that's just sort of like collecting all this shit around him, and guys sort of buying into that. But the guys who are buying into that, what kind of lives are these guys living? What kind of frame do these guys actually have? What does, what's fascinating to me is they'll give me all of this criticism, but yet I go home to a beautiful wife. I have a very well-adjusted, fantastic 21-year-old daughter who is, finishing her last year at college. I've got 2 pretty nice dogs sitting over here right now. I'm living the patriarch's dream that all these guys are selling. But when they go home from the fucking from that event, they're going back to their single moms. They're going back to
cheating wives.
They're cheating wives. They're going back to their to maybe an empty household or some shed in the woods somewhere where they're going to go do the next YouTube video for. So what's the it's like, by their fruits you will know them. So when you're looking at these guys, do any of these guys have any kind of legitimate, authentic frame? Look at what's the proof? What are they? I mean, a guy. I don't want to pick on Bruno, but like because a lot of guys are doing. A lot of these guys are doing the same thing. Is they want to put themselves out there. It's like, I'm going to teach you how to live your best life. Well, show me Show me the proof. Show me the fruits of your labor. Show me what you're doing. Right. I'm the best. Right now. Rollo Tomassi is the best patriarch of.
Dude, you're the traddest tradcon around. And
I'm the traddest tradcon that there could possibly be.
Right? That's the part that makes me laugh. It's almost like when you hear the single moms on Facebook, or your friend from high school giving those affirmations constantly about how they're always loved and your feelings matter, but they're not nowhere near to living up to what they profess. It's almost a communal self-delusion. And I almost think that that's the value in it for some people who want that catharsis. It's, well, I want this life, but I want it so bad, I'm going to pretend I have it, and then I'll get that same dopamine rush. It's like the equivalent of a guy talking about what he's going to do on his New Year's resolution. He gets his dopamine rush, and then he just stops doing it because he's already got the high from it. And that's the part that worries me the most, because there's only 2 arguments. There's an argument for action and an argument for inaction. Red pill, argument for action, guaranteed. There's no non-action involved in any aspect of it. Change your mindset, change your actions, change who you deal with, change where you move, all that stuff. There's no part of any of the purple pill that involves action. That last guy you showed me, the crazy guy, what was his call to action at the end? I love you. All of you. I don't know you, but I love you. Like, what do you do with that? It doesn't keep you warm at night. It doesn't pay the bills. Doesn't give you a $5.
Can you take this comment thing off the cover of me? And
read that real quick. Read that.
Yeah, we'll just do a quick one here. I always like a good flex.
Josh is good. Josh is my screener and Rich's screener.
Yeah. So he called ADJ lazy on Twitter. He also was asked by Anthony, "What were you doing at 17?" So he replied, "Well, at 17, I became the first minor in Canada with my disability to live independently." Fair enough. Yeah, it's like, you're not the first one who accomplished shit as a teenager. Like, fuck, grow up. Yeah. Anyways, here, we'll get there. Mr. President, there's your pretty face back in full view.
You can't be cutting off the goods, man. But no, going back, because obviously I've been banned off of Twitter for the 3rd time now, and watching, I'm actually on vacation right now, and I'm having a good old time. But some people just keep on sending me this stuff that's going on. I can't even believe, you got these guys, like, they are so obsessed with you, Rollo. It's hilarious. And listen, if you
5 months,
right? So the gay ballerina guy is obsessed with you. What's his name? Antonio.
Cortez?
Yeah, that guy. Pat Stedman is obsessed with you. Now, the old dwarf with the shed in Family Alpha is taking shots at you. But if you are so terrible, right?
I must be a very dangerous man to have enemies like this, right?
Such powerful enemies.
Powerful enemies.
If you're like such a bad guy and you're so worthless, then where are their bodies of work that have been so critically acclaimed by the internet? Because the internet is the ultimate judge. You look at the reviews on Amazon, look at all the book reviews written about you, look at all YouTube videos.
Let me tell you about the reviews. Let me tell you about the reviews right now.
Well, the positive ones. You know what I'm saying? That
doctoring
fake things to screw with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been my first book has been the subject of, or it's been the target of a spam review campaign by, I'm fairly sure it's Bob Lewis, and it's DDJ right now, because I encouraged some of my Facebook followers, I guess, on Facebook to just upvote a particular. I mean, the problem with Amazon right now is it's all about upvotes. There's no downvotes, and they don't give a rat's ass about pulling abuse or any kind of like deliberate spam campaigns. And that's what this is. And all I've seen is, ever since I sort of initiated this anti spam campaign, the upvotes for Bob Lewis's sort of middle of the road review of the book has been upvoted as well. So it's like it's this game of escalation. And now I know they're playing games with me. I know exactly who it is. But this is the thing. This is the pettiness. This is where these guys will go. DDJ, who's been divorced twice, yeah, I mean, and where it was a MGTOW for a while. I don't know what the hell he is. He's an affiliate marketer for the Dollhouse. Is a consummate liar and knows that he's a consummate liar. In approvable consummate liar, I should say. But you got a guy like, why is it what I'm doing is so agitating to you? Why is it what I have done? And they offer no alternatives. They offer nothing else. What else is there? What are you gonna go write the fucking book? If you think you can do better, write the fucking book.
Yeah,
please
exactly.
do.
They can't. Nobody can produce something like you can.
Well, you don't have to.
Well, no, but that's the thing. No, you do. Get this thing off my face. So if you okay, here's the deal. Sure, you want to demonize Rollo, whatever, but sitting there and pointing at him and just saying like, there's like a photo of a bad angle of Rollo, and they're like, because he probably made you wear some suit, and you're always wearing like heavy metal stuff. You're out of your element. So like, they're sitting here and trashing you, but that is going to get tired over a while. Like at the end of the day, the people are going to want results. They're going to want like, okay, so if this guy's so bad, then where's your body work? And nobody can provide it. Look at Pat Stedman's coaching. All of those guys who are scammed by this guy end up coming to you, end up coming to me. Like, oh, I was scammed to this guy for like text message only coaching for $100 a month. Hundreds of dollars a month.
I agree with you. I think that this whole charade is going to fall down on him on Anthony at some point. But I think the main reason for that is you can't build a brand on what you're against. You have to build a brand on what you are for. Well,
here's the thing, and I know Troy's going to back me up on this one. Like, I'm not competing with you. Troy's not competing with you. John's not competing with you. We're all doing our own things. Nobody is going to be a better Rollo than Rollo. That's just by definition. It's standard 48 laws of power. Don't try and hide under the shadow of a tall man. I can't remember how the words, but so I'm building my own body of work. I'm starting my books. I'm doing my channel. I'm putting my content out there. I'm building my own thing that's going to be good for me. And it's going to take a while. Like, I don't expect to be bigger than Rollo Tomassi after putting in 4 years of work. I'm 3 books behind and God knows how many hours of time in the trenches. Same as Troy. Troy's written 10 books. You're on 11 right now, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
At no point has he decided like, fuck Rollo Tomassi. He's too busy making his own content that builds his own body of work. Same as John. Everybody's doing their own thing and everybody's going to be big in their own way. Well, hopefully, but that's the thing. You don't skip the steps where you have that 80s montage of your life.
Name one person that has done the variety of high quality work that we've done here. Who's ever filmed a body language course plus a 3-week training seminar? Who has, built like, the men's coach that you have with the emails and the Skype calls and everything,
I'm not even there yet. I'm still new and I'm fine with that. But Tanner is the one guy, and I get it. Everybody's got differences, that kind of thing, but I'm never going to speak ill of him because he is doing that. He's not concerned with who he's better than or who he's worse than. He's been too busy making his empire, and he's doing really well at it. And he's a great example of how you can make your own niche, make yourself your own empire, your own body of work, and be successful at it. When at the same time, he's LDS, he's a Mormon. He doesn't need to talk about all these dirty heathens that don't believe in the same God he does. He's too busy making his own. And I think that's a great roadmap. And I'm surprised that a lot of these guys spent that much time with him over the last couple of years and didn't pick that message up.
Because they're just starving for the clout, man. You got to realize people are in this social media world that we are part of, there are people that are just narcissistically ego-driven. Their persona takes over the initial reason why they started this stuff.
Oh, I get it. It's all attention is good attention.
Well, they started it initially probably for good, but eventually they get lost in the weeds because they just want to keep the clout. That's what I'm saying. Anybody who's just with Anthony, they're not because they ideologically stand with Anthony. It's because he gives them a stage to talk to all these other dudes and all these other people, and that translates into, you know, exposure and finances. That's all it is. Anybody who has a fraction of a brain cell and an ounce of business sense knows that staying with Anthony is a very, very, very bad idea. So they've either bottom line that even if this thing does go south, I can still salvage my brand, or they're just business incompetent.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I never made $1 from it. I never built brand much from it other than coming out IRL. But I mean, I could have done that anywhere. You guys didn't come out at the 21 convention. So that's the big reason I stepped away. I'm like, look, I'm not making money on this, and I'm fine with that. And I think we've talked with this privately too, Rolo. Well, privately within the group at the time. Everybody was going on about purity tests. And I'm like, look, I'm here to help men with their sexual strategy. The instant I don't think we're here for the benefit of men is I'm leaving. And sure enough, as soon as I saw that crap coming around, I'm like, all right, this is clearly nothing to do with helping men. And so I threw in my notice of now notice. He's not my employer, but
right.
I'm like, look, man, good luck on future endeavors. I'll catch you later. And then he completely lost his mind.
Well, that was
and I'm surprised. Like you said, it's the clout. And then, you know, I hope it works out for them, but I have a feeling that it might not. And even if it does, that's not the way I want to make my bones.
Well, you know how
it's not going to work out, because you have to realize this. The internet is only getting more and more powerful. Okay. People are becoming more and more connected, and scammers are being exposed faster and faster and faster. You guys remember that guy, Justin Wayne, who was running all those scams? Look at them running out of business. RSD running a scam for the longest time. There's a whole reason they're doing this rebranding, because they got fucking outed. And the same thing with this guy. He's not thinking long term. And all of the men listening, you need to be planning for the long term. I'm telling you, mark my words, this guy's going to crash and burn, and it's going to be fucking hilarious. And at the end of the day, we're going to be here to say, hey, I told you so. Check out the Rule Zero. You'll see when we actually document this. Watch and see, guys. Just watch and fucking see.
I have a feeling, John, through this new super chat is one of your guys here. As far as the vice president goes, I think we're going with Bruno, but but Troy, you were saying.
I was just going to say that this again, there is a crossover here with the topic of frame, I think, because I mean, could we say in a sense that frame is there's a certain synonymousness with authenticity, isn't there? And what we're really talking about here is authenticity in the online space. You know, who's authentic? In other words, who's done the work, and who's not authentic. And in a sense, I think similar to the frame conversation, where you can pretend to be the man for a period of time, but you've also got to be doing the work on yourself in order to get yourself to where you want to be. It's the same with all this stuff we're talking about in terms of these sort of 21con and online figures, where it's all very well to talk the talk, but unless you're also walking the walk, it's only gonna get you so far, and it's only gonna last for a certain amount of time. So I think the message in all of this really for people is that yes, you can fake it till you make it, but you also need to be working bloody hard in the background to make sure that you're making it as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess we're going to find out. And here's the thing. Here's another thing about frame. Let's say the 21 convention does amazing. For some reason, those 75 people go back. They invite 10,000 of their friends next year, and it does wonderful. Good for him. I don't really care. Other than using it as a cautionary tale for other people, the outcome of that event doesn't really affect me. And I like talking about it because we got to talk about something. And it's a great example of a narcissistic fantasy in real time that we can use to show guys, hey, don't be like this. Don't call yourself the president of whatever goofy hobby club you're part of.
Well, you know, I and Rich pointed this out to me back in like February when he decided to part ways with Anthony. He's like, what are you really getting out of this? Like, what's the end result? He doesn't have that big a channel. It's not that kind of a, you know, how much money have you made off of I mean, if you're going to call yourself an entrepreneur, right? If you're going to say, well, it's a brand of me, I want to promote myself as a brand, whatever, like that's clearly what most of these guys want to do, is they want to promote their brand of me. Socrates has some, new kids book with a little red hat in it, right? Or you've got Bruno doing his thing, or whoever. Everybody has their own little separate sub brands within that brand. Okay, great. If you are actually an entrepreneur, what is that doing for you? What is going there and talking to, like, let's just say 75, 100 people in a dark room? What is that doing for you? Is the video that he puts on his channel that gets him the traffic, is that making you any money, or are you seeing, and how do you quantify that? I will guarantee you that none of the guys that are standing in that photo can give you quantifiable numbers as to how much their business, their brand of me, has benefited from going and doing that. And that's what Rich told me. He says,
I can negative 300.
What are you making off of this? Right. Yeah, I know. Right. Well, what are you making off of this? And I'm like, well, there's tickets, you get a certain percentage off the tickets, but it's like, that's like, it's nothing. It's not enough to even like declare on taxes, right? And yet Anthony is still scrambling to make sure people don't get their refunds, or people don't get paid, or like I didn't get paid, or Ryan doesn't get paid because he wants to do fictitious chargebacks on us through PayPal, right? He wants to do stuff like that. A lot of people don't know that, right? I mean, they don't know that he tried to not pay the commissions for using my name, using your name, using Rich's name, everything else, to sell his events.
And here's the thing, there's an argument can be made for that too. Let's say I sell 100 tickets and 100 of those guys want chargebacks. So he's within his rights to ask for the commission payouts back. Unless there's some agreement, but there was no real agreement to it. Well, the part that always made me laugh, and I've never mentioned this before, I only had one guy who bought a ticket to come see the event. And he never got a chargeback. He never even tried for a chargeback. That was the one that he clawed back from PayPal, and they gave it to him because the way he worded it made it sound like he was buying something from me and didn't receive his product. And so that for me was kind of funny, because I was thinking, from these guys that are talking about they make their commissions from ticket sales, like you'd have no guarantees that he's going to honor his payments to you. Because like I said, don't like him, don't like the convention at this point and what it's become. But I still did what I was contractually obligated to do. I sold a ticket, didn't get refunded, got a commission payout. The fact that he goes against that, that's just bad business practice.
Oh, he's very vocal about the fact that he's never paid in the history of the convention. He's never paid a speaker's fee for any of these guys. So take that how you want. If you're interested, if you're an entrepreneur and you're interested in your own little brand of me, or whatever it is, your coaching service or whatever it is, remember that. What is it actually doing? Is it worth you? Because right now, the only benefit I see these guys getting is a free trip to Orlando and maybe a hotel room, and that's it. And maybe a dinner.
If the videos were getting 25,000 views or something, then maybe that would be different. But they're not, are they? Even on the main 21Con channel, the views seem to be very low. The views seem to be sort of around the 2,000 mark for most videos.
Ryan Banner.
With the
crying out loud, John, we get it. You're pretty. Jesus.
It's over Troy's face too.
Troy's pretty too.
Thank you. So it's not like you seem to be getting much exposure from the videos either. So I don't know, man. It's but it's for each person to.
So let's think, what is it actually doing for you? And if you were actually a entrepreneur, you would be interested in those things. You would actually have the business sense, or you would have the education to know those things, to run the numbers. That's why I think one of the reasons why Rich bailed out is because he ran the number. He actually does that for a living, right? I mean, he actually is a businessman. And so he's like, well, what's the cost versus my investment here? What am I getting? What's the payout? What's the reward, right? Nobody asks those questions because they've never done that before. When you got a guy like Hunter Drew who quits his job so he can do this full time, he doesn't ask those questions because he doesn't know any better. He's working in like a cubicle job. I don't know about this for certain, but if you're working in a cubicle job and you go online and you're making like 3 times as much as you were making in your desk job, all you see is dollar bills, yo. And they don't, and they don't run numbers. They don't think of it because they don't have any business. They don't have any. I'll say this. I'll admit I don't have any business acumen when it comes to that kind of stuff either. And it took me a while to figure that kind of shit out. And now, because of what I've written, because of what I've become, because of the Rational Male, Roll Tomasi, all that stuff. Because of that, I've had to become more and more concerned with like, how am I going to get, because people will exploit you. People will find ways to grift off of you. Yeah. And so you have to watch out for that kind of stuff. And I think that's what Rich was doing in the very beginning. And he asked me the same thing. And I was like, a trip to Poland, a trip to Orlando,
It's a failing business model though, Rollo, because you can only sit there. Look, okay, for all you guys in the audience watching, right? Look at what the Red Man Group was and look at what it is now. We went from 800 live viewers to 15 with a guy on the screen who is an affiliate marketer to sell sex dolls to men because they are afraid of women, and they said that it's a logical decision to buy a $2,000 sex doll and have sex with that rather than sorting yourself out. Okay, that is the kind of business decision that is being made by this guy, and the Red Man Group is tanking. The 21 convention had $40,000 in chargeback, mostly thanks to myself and Rollo. And
wasn't
just
me.
keep on watching. Well, I'll take all the blame for that.
You take all that credit.
I'm in Tokyo, motherfucker.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is I think a lot of that's the. I mean, any logical thinking guy.
Yeah, but just look at it. It's the Red Man Group is just it's the canary in the coal mine for 21 convention. Mark my words.
Hey, I was just thinking too, Rollo, when you were talking about that being taken advantage of thing, that's an awesome frame segue. Like, I love going back to topic here. Okay. Think about the sexual marketplace. A guy who automatically gives his devotion to a girl. She takes advantage of him, takes half his money, just treats him like a portable ATM, that kind of thing. You want to have a great example of frame? The kind of frame where you put your own interest first and don't let a girl take advantage of you like a simp. That's going to carry over in the business world, because I was thinking about that there. The whole time you're talking, well, what's in it for me? What's the value add? And we kind of both did our calculations. It's not easy. Sometimes building brand or building clout can have like a non-tangible asset valuation. But at the end of the day, Rich did a really good job at this. He was smarter than me, but I'm still learning, whatever. He realized, like, he always asked the question, what's in this for me? And when he decided not only was there nothing in it for him, but it was actually detrimental to him when they had that DDJ MGTOW threatening bullshit there. And then he realized, like, that's his frame. Like, yeah, this isn't working for me, so I'm out.
Well, look at the views that Rich gets on his channel compared to.
Oh yeah, he doesn't buy subs. You can tell that much. But that's just it. It's not just business. It's not just an entrepreneurial attempt at doing stuff. It's life. That Anthony Johnson taking advantage, never paying a speaker, that's no different than a girl saying, I go on Tinder and have dates so I can get free dinners. No difference, except for the girl's not calling herself the president of Tinder.
Yep. Or putting her Instagram in her Tinder, and he's like, just follow me on Instagram, send me a message there, and then I'll go with you on a date. And she's just using there to give free clout. That's all it is.
Yeah, but it's all very manipulative. And I guess, I mean, it's easy enough to apply when you've just done dating. And this is domain dependence. Again, Rollo, you're right. If you can take the idea of pickup, if you can break down the 3 mystery method or the M3 method into its constituent parts, instead of using rote memorization, you put your own stories in there and you understand why things work. You make it your own. If you're doing the London day game model, same thing. When you're doing these approaches, you understand why they work. And like you said, you fake it until you've learned why you're doing it, and then you make it.
Right.
And it just expands into so many other avenues. Like, that stuff is going to be extremely helpful in business. Troy has noticed the same thing that helped him with approaches is what's helping him with making business deals. Or you're noticing that writing about the sexual marketplace helps you write books. Like, everything. And this is what real self-improvement is. You're improving towards a goal. It's means to an end. And frame is kind of the underlying structure that enables the whole thing. And the alternative to that is you're just sitting there while some guy calls him the president of the manosphere, smiling awkwardly, pretending that you don't notice what's going on.
Right. Well, I think that, and this is like, I think true really for frame in general, as a general concept, is actually at some point your frame is going to be tested That's what shit tests are, right? I mean, and shit tests are not just a thing for, fitness tests, whatever you want to call it. They're not just a thing for women. So we talk about, of course, in the manospheres in terms of intersexual dynamics, but other guys will test you all the time too. Like they'll rib you. They'll see, are you, like I think a lot of guys don't understand how to interact with other men today because they've never really been raised in a conventionally masculine way. So when a guy gives them shit and tests them, they think of it as bullying, or they think of it's like hazing or some kind of shit like that. Like, well, can't we all just be guys, hang out and have a beer? And guys are going to test you. That's part to see if are you actually who you present yourself as.
Bust your balls,
you bust your balls, right? They have you have a burden of performance for that kind of stuff. So if frame is not just about intersexual dynamics, I wanted to make that clear because I don't think a lot like we're kind of relating this to all the bullshit that's been going on in the manosphere lately. But it's not just that it's at work, it's at your family, it's like I said in the military, it's where who's reality are you entering into? And then if you enter into that reality, at what point do you test that person's authenticity with respect to the frame that you've entered into, and you've decided that you're going to play the game that this guy or this girl is presenting to you? Do you actually have, and I think this is how pickup artists and the old school pickup artists presented this, is do you have a world that woman wants to enter into? That she willingly says, that's attractive. I want to be a part of that. I want to be associated with that, because that's part of women's mating strategy. Is part of their ego is associated with the man that they get, the quality of the guy that they get, the guy who, because for women, it's all about quality, right? It's all about the guy who is, he's got to be hot and he's got to be actually, he's alpha fucks and beta bucks, right? He has to be the best of both of those if possible. But if it's only going to be the hot guy, she's going to be happy to get with him for one reason. And if it's the guy who's got a lot of money or who's got a lot of status or he's got some sort of fame that she can sort of associate her ego with, she's going to go with that. But in either of those cases, the guy actually has to have some kind of authentic quality to him for her to want to do that. And so if you have a frame, and you are successful enough to present yourself as that frame, at some point that frame is going to be tested by women, by men, by whoever, to say, are you really the guy that you are presenting yourself as? And at some point, since we're relating this to everything that's been going on here, at some point, people are going to go, okay, great. You hate Rollo. You can't build a brand. You can't build a brand based on what you're against. What the negative? You're trying to prove the negative. Like, okay, great. So you're against Rollo. What are you for? And then when they finally go and put it out there and say, this is what we're actually for, people go, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, the booklet.
yeah, the pamphlet or whatever. Like, and that again, the pamphlet that these moral absolutists have decided that they want to throw out there and say, well, the red pill's an ideology. Well, they have to make it an ideology because they can't confront it as a rational praxeology. So we got to make it into an ideology, and that's the only way they can combat anything that I've said. Is by saying, well, it's all about belief. That's why they say Rollo has a cult, right? Because if it's not an ideology, if it's not a religion, they can't fight it, because they can't fight it on facts. They can't fight it on like tangible, concrete, in your face, empirical reasoning. They don't have hard data. They have to break it.
Soft data is fine.
So here's the thing is like, so if that's where you're going to confront me on, okay, great. What do you have? Well, we have healing crystals. We've got Jesus, and we've got we're going to vote for Trump. And that was what makes a real man, right?
And everything in front of your girl, crying in front of your girlfriend.
Everything I've seen, everything I've seen from these guys, particularly this Noah guy or whoever it is, it's different than Dr. Phil. It is no different than the Good Man Project. It is no different than anything that's on the Oprah Book Club reading list. Okay. None of that is any different. Pretty much everything that I see that these guys are professing right now is the same shit that you will see at like these universities that run these classes on toxic masculinity. And if we could just like the red pill's toxic I would not be surprised if in the coming year that they say, oh, the red pill and the way Rollo does it, that's all toxic masculinity. They will start using that term. They will start using feminist terms. They'll start using that kind of grift. Because that's
when you lost the frame, because you're using feminist language. And language implies thought.
Because they have Nothing. If they had something, they would put it out there. So they have to turn it into ideology. They have to. So there's nothing behind it. There's no, they want you to enter this frame, but it's an inauthentic frame. There's nothing there. There's no, there's nothing that is going to build a guy up. There's nothing that's going to give guys, actionable information. They say, well, Rollo doesn't have he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have 12 rules for life. He doesn't give us any cures, right? Yeah, because I'm not a fucking cult leader. Because I want you to take these tools and build your own damn life. I don't want Rollo clones. I don't want guys. Well, I'm a Peterson guy. I don't want to be. I don't want to say, well, I read 12 Rules for Life and I'm washing my penis and I'm cleaning my room and I'm making my bed and so therefore I'm a Peterson guy. I don't want a Rollo.
Doesn't that sound like a nice guy script,
by the way? You to be your own dude.
I put coins into the sex machine and receive validation out the other end, or how does that one work with the nice guy script? Coins into the machine and get sex out the other side.
Yeah, like there's exactly.
That's what that clean your room hybridization is. It's you do all these things, you be a real man, and they don't even say at the other end a wife and 4 kids are going to pop out. They just kind of infer it, and you're supposed to fill in the blanks yourself. Yeah, so when it doesn't happen, they can easily say, "Oh, that's not what I meant. We never promised you all these successful things. We promised you something else." But don't understand.
I'll say this, right? We're talking about they are not producing, right? They're not producing anything to basically blow Rollo's work out of the fucking water, because quite honestly, it's gonna be hard to do so. At the same time, we're bashing their convention, right? Fair enough. But actually, I have an announcement to make. In 2020, I am going to begin the full campaign of the Hot Dude Convention and getting quality speakers with actionable advice that is backed by studies, is backed by real world people doing it. You're not going to see some fat guy on my stage talking about fitness and seduction who's married to a single mom. Okay, you're not going to see some guy that was banging girls, then he decides to want to bang some dudes, and now he's like, well, I'm going to go back to banging girls and preach about masculinity. He's not going to see any of these. There's not going to be incongruencies at my events. 2020, you're going to see it's going to happen in the United States. It's going to happen ideally 4 times. I am going to outwork and outperform this guy and put 21 Convention in their grave. As I was taking my break from Twitter, this is what I've been thinking about.
Break.
And my break, right?
Yes.
My rebranding of my break. But for me, and what these guys don't seem to realize is, like, let's just be literally very honest about myself, right? I'm a very brash character. I wear sunglasses. I am very, wild and crazy, right? But at the same time, I'm authentic. I'm authentic. And that's what millennial customers, that's what millennial men, that is what people look for these days, is authenticity. They don't want to be they don't want to be lied to. They don't want to be swindled. And that's what they're doing is wrong. They're not doing it. They're not being authentic. They're being very, very, very weird and very, they're trying to be something that they're not.
They have there's nothing behind it. There's like I was just saying, it's like other guy. If you're going to present yourself as a particular frame, and you can do that in a meta sense as well, people don't be surprised when people call you on your authenticity. Don't be so, and you better have something to back it up. You better have something to show for it, particularly in the internet age, because it'll be out the next day. Right. I mean, there'll be something else there. That's why all this bullshit with Nellie Bowles right now is like, well, we're going to go and invite her to the, we're trying to sell our old audience on this idea that Rollo's a traitor or Rollo's treasonous, but yet you invite the same person to your convention.
He did invite her again this year?
Oh, dude, you're not on Twitter, so you didn't see that. No, he basically said, hey, he gave a shout out to Nellie Bowles saying, thanks for showing up, or thanks for coming to the convention this year. All right.
Anybody with a psychological background can see that what he's doing.
Oh, he's got Asperger's syndrome. He's got some sort of autism,
He's aligned himself with all the guys that are clearly anti-Rollo. That's what he did. He got with Pat Stedman.
That's why
he knows that you like him. Pat Stedman is there. GLO, right, who's completely irrelevant. Who cares about that guy? But that guy is hating you, and he's aligned himself with that guy. Nelly Bowles in the situation with you being dismissed, with thinking the internet is stupid, and that they couldn't figure out that this was just a coup to get you out. So you got her there as well.
There was a coup.
It was a coup to get you out.
It wasn't me, but there was a coup.
It was a coup to get you out.
But it's just, you didn't have to do any of this. You could have just said, thanks, but no thanks, Rollo. We'll catch you on the next one. Like, it's not hard.
Yeah,
right. But see, the thing is if you look at the speakers, they're all strategically selected because they're all anti-Rollo. And more importantly they're all jealous of Rollo. They can't get Rollo out of their fucking minds because they have nothing to provide a value. So they just have to try and tear Rollo down. But that is a bad business model. That is a bad business model. Remember, you always talk about pro wrestling, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
When WCW and WWEF were going at it with the Monday Night Wars, right?
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff he was trying so hard to get the ratings for Monday Night, for Monday Night Nitro. He was trying to get those through the roofs by trashing the WWE, and it worked for the first. I think they dethroned him for 1 year, and then WCW was the top. But once they got to the top, they had built their entire brand on trashing the WWE. Meanwhile, Vince McMahon was just constantly building up his roster, and that's when he got some of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He got The Rock, he got Stone Cold Steve Austin, he got the Generation X, right? And he got
all the Attitude Generation.
Kane. Yeah, exactly. The greatest generation of WWF, period. You just know this, irrefutable. But they interviewed Vince McMahon. They said, why did you not respond? Why did you not try and tear him down? He says, my philosophy is this. We bring your own business up. Tearing somebody down is a short-term game, and it's a short-term plan, and it doesn't work. And as you can see, where's the WCW now? Oh, wait, WWE purchased them, right? And that's the same thing that's happening right now. This is what he's built his brand upon, was just, he's built it on trashing Rollo. Everybody got out of the, Pat Stedman was the first time he had real life human interaction with more than, 5 people. He got out of the convention. He was tearing down Rollo. Gay Ballerina Jesus tearing down Rollo. They're all going on this like rampage after the 21 convention, all hyped.
Oh, you weren't on Twitter either for that flex he gave where people were making fun of him because he was dressed like a schlub and he looked out of shape on some photos. And so he said, well, at least I look better than this guy 30 years older than me. And he took like the most unflattering Rollo photo ever.
Right. And it was
the weirdest flex.
Granted, it was bad. That was a real poor decision on my part, because a lot of people kept saying, well, Rollo, he just dresses like he's 14 years old, or he thinks he's like, a skater kid or something like that.
He dressed like a guy from the 80s and early 90s.
So I put on an expensive suit, and I go out there and I talk, and oh man, what's wrong with this old guy? What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't win. So you know what? I'm just going to dress the way I want.
But again, it's
not about the way I look; it's the way I think. Okay,
yeah. It's ad hominem. I mean, it's irrelevant.
Of course.
Yeah, I can't picture myself bragging as a 30-year-old man that I look better at 30 than I will at 50.
He also said, "What about in 2 years when I'm really built? What are people going to say about me then?"
20 pounds of muscle in a year. That's what that was.
Oh my God! He's been saying that for 2 years. Okay. That guy, oh God, okay, I'm just done. I'm not gonna say anything.
Well, it just doesn't do, and that's the problem, because in the end of all this, the only one who's really losing is the audience.
Right.
How many guys do we have? 415 guys now.
That's why I'm being vocal about it, and that's why I'm launching my own convention.
Right.
Because these fucking kids, I've seen some of these dudes that were at the 21 convention, and they are just sheep in every sense of the word, and they just happen to find a bad shepherd. And that is why this I'm telling you, the hot dude movement is going to grow, man. We just wait and see. It's going to grow. It's going to grow. It's been growing this year, and it's going to grow next year. I'm going to have in every city. I'm going to have cell groups. I'm going to have cell groups with verified leaders in each city.
Where are the hot
guys
dudes?
Can go to. They're going to join the hot dude army, and it's going to be good. Watch. I'm going to if you guys see. I mean, well, listen. Actually, all you guys see what goes on behind closed doors when we do the private webinars, and you see the quality of men that's in there. There's no dorks in there. Those are all real high hit. These are high salary paid, really good looking guys and good fitness.
Troy's been doing some good stuff with that your videos, your man on the street videos, I think have been pretty good lately.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm just sort of with the with the channel. I'm just sort of experimenting because I'm trying to. I'm practicing in public, if you like, because I want to get, you know. Look, video was never a sort of a natural medium for me. I was always wrote, and I started off, you know, just writing blog posts and writing books, and I didn't, you know, show my face publicly for quite a long time and everything. And video was always a secondary thing, but I'm starting to really enjoy it now. And
it's fun, isn't it?
It's really fun, yeah. And I just, you know, and I'm just sort of trying to practice so I get better and better. And yeah, it's great. And I think those videos, it's a really nice way just to put across a little idea. It's almost like a mini article, but just articulated vocally while you're walking along is just a really nice way to do it. So yeah, I you know, people seem to quite like them. So yeah, it's been good.
So I'm with you. Same thing. Learning editing, video editing has been so much fun because you can actually tell two stories with the same video just by even the smallest thing, like how you shift from one cut to another can actually add emphasis or tell a story or increase or decrease the cadence. I love the subtext side of things, and I think it's a nice little secondary lesson. I mean, we can tell a guy hypergamy is this, and you need to do this to be more attractive. But then if you can have it resonate on multiple levels, it stands a far greater chance of the guy watching it to absorb the lesson and to actually apply it in his own life. Just something simple as being able to tell a story. If you can tell a story and keep a crowd engaged, you can pick a girl up. You can get her emotionally invested. I mean, just John himself, watching him with his kind of aloofness, but still like enjoyable about it, will be a more attractive thing for guys to learn than 100 articles as to why you need vibration crystals.
As demonstrated on your Instagram stories the other night. John.
Yeah, bro.
Tokyo.
Everybody who saw my Instagram stories from Tokyo my DMs were blown up, dude.
I was like, man, I'm gonna book a flight. That looks fucking awesome. It looked fantastic.
You didn't see what happened off camera, but yeah. I'll just say I'm the fucking man. Your boy still got it. Oh man, and this wasn't like some like girl you have to like look at in a certain darkness, like okay, like I could see her being cute. No, like this was I still got it. I still got to woke up the smile, just like, oh, I'm still the fucking man.
Nice.
All right, here's one for you, John. I want to block your face with somebody who's asking you a question from Rachel Schnitzel. Are you going to consider hosting Hot Dude Con in Vegas?
So it's Hot Dude Con, not Hot Dude Fest. Okay, we're not gonna go rub crystals to each other and all that shit. Here's the deal: Hot Dude Con is going down, but this is VIP members only this Saturday, November 9th in Phoenix, Arizona, and then I'm gonna have another one in Wyoming. Okay, so that's gonna go down, and then this angle's kind of weird, Ryan. And then it's gonna be next year. I actually have a panel of advisors that are actually advising me to make proper business moves. So I need to decide. I need to decide the times, and it can't be in the summer because I'm going to be at the Olympics because it's Tokyo 2020. So I'm going to be balling out there. So I'm not going to be dealing with any of that. But it'll probably be happening ideally spring, fall, and then winter because this second half of the year. For quarter 3 and quarter 4, these have been the beta test for how hot the idea is. And men are out there, they want to meet up in real life. You know, we already have the digital meetups in my webinars, 100 dudes at a time. And, for a fraction of the cost as well. That's a big thing too.
The thing is, I mean, meeting up in real life, there's 100%. It's vital, and guys want it, and guys need it, and it's really, really important for any community that you've got that face-to-face meeting up. And that's why, on Twitter sometimes guys have said, like Troy or these others, they just want to tear down the 21 card, they want to wreck it, and that's not really the case. I mean, in principle, I think the idea of having a convention, the idea of having a meetup is absolutely bang on. I think it's so important. It's just that you've got to do it right, and you've got to give actionable, decent advice, not just some bullshit, Yeah,
and I'm happy with things not being optimal. That's fine. Everybody's going to learn from something. Not going to be perfect. The first Hot Dude Con was not the greatest event in the history of mankind. I think John's okay with that, but every time he does something, it's getting better. And as long as I see that forward progress, I'm all for it. That and the end goal of being the benefit of men. I mean, there's plenty of enough things that are going to sell money on making women feel better about themselves. For once, let's see if there's a market for guys, and not made to feel better, but to actually be better.
That's the thing. I mean, Ryan, you've sat it on a couple of my webinars. You know exactly what goes on behind the scenes there. It is raw, hard.
It's a horrible orgy. It's crazy. You wouldn't believe what you see.
It's all, you know, hardcore, actionable advice, and that's why, despite my price, my business strategy kind of, I don't know, it worked to my benefit, but my strategy was to raise the price and get less people coming in. But the quality, of course, and just the word of mouth has been spreading that even as the price goes up, the amount of enrollees jumps in. And then so the quality of men that is joining is also just, you keep on growing. Like with this quarter, we got a professional voice actor, we got an attorney, we got like fucking, I don't know what's in the water, but we got a bunch of oil and gas guys. We've got software engineers, we've got medical professions, got guys that are making more money than me. This guy and up in Canada making more than $250,000, and he's, you know, he's a young guy, he's in his 20s, but he's doing very well for himself. So these are the kind of guys that are, and they're not dorks either. They're not like skinny, out of shape weirdos. Like they're all in good shape. They're all handsome guys who just need a little bit of tweaking to their game. And
well, that's most guys. Nobody's a true loser. There's very few. Most people are 70-80% of the way there.
You should take a look at some of the guys that went to 21Con. I would definitely disagree with you on that one.
Well, I'm just saying as a general principle, most guys aren't abject losers. There's small minorities of them. Most people, like you said, are halfway there or 70% there, and they need tweaking.
I think what a lot of guys need to realize when you are like listening to these guys, you are technically entering their frame. Whenever you are in like a school room, or you're like if you have a teacher, you know, you're entering into that teacher's frame. If you have like you're in the military, you have your CO, right? Whatever. I don't know. Ryan knows the rank and everything, but you're going to listen to people according to what their frame is. So a guy who is higher ranking than you kind of have no other choice but to enter into that guy's frame. But see, here's the thing: is in the manosphere, in where we're at right now, you have a choice. You have a choice who you're going to listen to. You have a choice whose frame you're going to enter into.
Oh yeah, there's no hard power. It's all soft power.
And really and I was just thinking about this a minute ago, is like, be careful of whose frame you're entering into. Be careful who has integrity. Who's like Rich has said this. He said, you know, before you decide on who it is that you want to follow or who you want to watch on, you know, subscribe to on YouTube or whatever. I mean, it's easy to just click the subscribe button on pretty much anybody, right? Subscriptions, like, it doesn't necessarily mean you've got that kind of reach. I mean, the viewership is one thing. It's another thing to actually, you know, keep people engaged, to have something beyond just the show. And so Rich was saying something effective, like, would you want to trade lives with any of these guys? Would you want to trade lives with any of the teachers at the 21Con? You know, would you want to do that? And you know, it's funny, is like, for me, like, there are very few guys who I could honestly say, yeah, I would love to trade lives with that guy, because I like my life. I love what I've done. I love what I've built. You know, I love being in this house.
It's custom tailored toward you.
My wife is where she's at. My daughter's where she's at. My dogs are downstairs howling, which is what I had to go do a minute ago. But like, I wouldn't like, people say, well, what about Dan Blitzerian? Like, I would trade lives with Dan Blitzerian maybe for a little while, but I wouldn't want to live that way. And maybe, I would trade lives with Dan Blitzerian financially.
Yeah, I don't want a heart attack at 35.
Yeah, maybe personally, maybe not. You know, like going to parties and stuff. What's funny is, like, I have been the guy who's organized the kind of those kinds of parties in the past, so I know what goes on and the planning and everything that goes on behind all of those great videos that he's showing, like for his Dan's Halloween videos, or when he's in Maui or wherever he's at. You got to understand that is very, very stage managed, and there has to be a lot behind that quality of video. So it's not just some guy with a drone, or it's not just his best friend, you know, taking casual shots with his iPhone. Okay, those are done up in Premiere. He has guys that on his bankroll that payroll that he puts into that. So, but like, from that respect, like, would I want to trade lives with Dan Blitzerian? Like, who would you want to trade lives? There's very few people I could say that I want to trade lives with.
And not just the highlight reel, like the whole thing.
The whole thing. Yeah. Get up in the morning and smell your own farts kind of reality, right? I mean, you still got to go out and mow the lawn kind of reality. That's funny. I was talking to this guy. I was talking to this kid, not kid, but this guy's 31 years old. This guy's name is Leo Stransky. I forget his name, but I met him last night. He's doing a gig here in Reno, and really good dude. Read my book. The guys in his band have read my book, and they were stoked that they had come down to Reno, and they knew I lived here, so I went down. I met with him, and really good guy. And I was telling him this. I said, look, when you are on stage, when you are because he does this kind of I think he's in a Depeche Mode
cool
tribute band or something.
Awesome.
Yeah. And let me tell you something, killing it doing this too. He was telling me they were after California, they're going to New Zealand in the summertime, because it's summertime down there. And they've already sold out the shows down there in New Zealand. And, talking about the girls and everything. And I said, we got to be careful, because when you're on stage, you are somebody that you are not when you're off stage. And he was saying exactly the same thing, because he was telling me about how, and hopefully he's okay with me saying this, but he was telling me about how he got wrapped up in a BPD girl, and how she loved him being that guy on the stage, like that image, that dude, right? But then when he's regular dude, when he's the regular guy, getting up in the morning, brushing his teeth, reading the paper, just being, a regular guy, that domesticity, I guess, is enough to ruin and to shatter that image that she fell in love with, right? So
yeah. Oh, sorry, Troy, I got to cut you 1 sec. Quincy was just on my channel last. I totally forgot to remind you, Rollo. Mm-hmm. He had a great story I wanted to tell you, where he, at the end of it, he was doing a Van Halen concert, doing security for it, and he watched Van Halen backhand David Lee Roth in the mouth.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that was back when they were sick of him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Danzig is an asshole. Marilyn Manson grabbed his ass and tried to pick him up because he was dressed like Mr. T. And I'm like, Rollo needs to hear the ending of these stories. Anyways, I'll leave it there. Just figured you'd enjoy those.
But my point is this: is that there's the guy that she meets in the club. There's the guy that you're presenting yourself as. There's the guy that, like, the fantasy that she falls in love with, but that fantasy is never the guy who she's buying a minivan with, right? Mm-hmm. That fantasy is never the guy that is the good dad. That fantasy is never the guy who's sitting across from her at breakfast saying, how are we going to pay the bills kind of thing, right? And so there's the let's build a life together fantasy, if that even exists. And then there's the guy who's up on stage. And I think that I probably should write an essay on this, because here's something I don't actually have an essay on, is like trying to unite that sort of dream guy with the guy who's just regular dude guy.
Yeah. And that relates it. That is really about frame as well, isn't it? Because it's about this thing about authenticity, because it's all very well to be the dude who walks into the club and you're giving it you're giving it the big one, and you're presenting this sort of thing. But 2 weeks later, when it's a Tuesday morning, are you still going to be that same guy? And you're probably not. And that's going to have an effect on her attraction to you. So the challenge for dudes, particularly getting into relationships or slightly longer term things, is how do you reconcile the difference between the guy that you first presented yourself as and the guy that you are on a regular basis, which then leads us into the whole topic of LTRs and sort of game within marriage and things, because of course that becomes increasingly difficult, particularly the longer the relationship goes on.
Yeah, and I'm the primary. Yeah, it's funny. Doing what I do, I get it from all sides, right? I get it from guys who are saying, "Well, you're married, you shouldn't be talking about game," blah, blah, blah. And it's like I'm not a pickup artist. I'm not out there running. I'm not doing what John does or you do. I'm the guy who picks that apart and analyzes that. And it's like, okay, well, and it's like, well, they don't understand what I do for a living either, so I don't know that I'm in the field constantly, but okay, that's fine. I get it. So I'm going to get it from that side. And then I'll get it from the opposite side, where it's like guys will say, well, all you're about is game, all you're talking about is you're just trying to, like, the glows of the world will say, like, oh, well, all you want to do is just get guys laid. And that's all. There's nothing deeper. There's nothing more to it than that. And it's like, it's either side. And it's like, I've had to learn to kind of deal with, critics
or not deal with.
Yeah,
you know, these guys don't even know what they're talking about if they're criticizing you.
Congruency, yes.
Well, you got if you stay. Hold on, I want to say this. Look, Rolly, how long you been married?
23 years.
You've been married for 3 years?
23 years.
Oh, 23. Sorry.
23 years.
I got the Bluetooth.
I know, you got the buds in. Yep.
Yeah, they're kind of cutting out. Okay, so Rollo, you've been married for 23 years, okay? What these guys don't realize is, a lot of you idiots don't realize, is that you think you get in a relationship, you get in a marriage, and it's just happy-go-lucky. Bro, you've got to game her till the day you die, okay? Game does not stop. And you have to become the game. You have to internalize that.
Yeah, there's that authentic bit again.
Your person again, yeah.
Yes.
The game has to be your frame, right? The game has to be like, you have to internalize it so that your natural reflexes are what you know, that's who you are. That's part of your personality. That's what when I talk about internalizing the red pill, like, I don't game my wife. I don't like, look through my notebooks and go, oh, well, she gave me a shit test and now I have to go and respond with A, B, C, or D. I don't, no, it's not that. That's rote memorization. That is the social robot that Neil Strauss talks about. That's the guy who has it rote memorization, and he's not real, right? He's not being himself.
Hey, Rollo. Hey, honey, I got to go for a minute and talk to my friends, but we're having an argument. You can help us settle it. I think it's cheating if you go to a different zip code. She doesn't think otherwise. What do you think? Pause, 2, 3, touch the arm.
Yeah, exactly.
30 years of that.
Yes. No, I'm not going to, what is it? The cube. I'm not running the cube on my wife for 23 years later. Yes. I'm not running the, hey, there was a fight outside the house. Yeah. Like, I'm not good.
Yeah.
My wife would be like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys think David Bowie was sexy? That was another one, wasn't it? That was one of the early ones.
Oh man, that's what I'm gonna throw that at her tonight. Do you think David Bowie was sexy?
Just in the middle of nowhere at like 10:30 at night.
Yeah, having dinner.
Well, one of the most ridiculous criticisms that I saw of Rollo, which is, and obviously there's a lot of competition for
Let's
that.
do an episode of all of the criticisms of Rollo.
Was that day game guy Nash, Days of Game, and he kept saying,
who used to be cool. He used to be
cool.
Yeah,
well, he's all right, but he kept saying, like, oh, Rollo, I bet Rollo's got no game. How do we know if Rollo's got any game? Is he like a player or what? It's like, dude, he's never presented himself as a pickup artist. He's never put himself forward as I'm some sort of master PUA. That's not what he's about. And if you can't see that, you're just you're letting yourself down.
Well, I mean, I have a lot
listen.
Oh, go ahead.
At the end of the day, okay, they don't build statues for critics, and that's all these bums
Voltaire.
are doing.
Voltaire, they built a statue for.
I mean, at least he wrote something. But I'm saying,
okay, you're right.
Actually,
all these dudes criticizing you and stuff, they are just jealous, and so jealous that you are parked rent free in their mind. Fucking Jesus Christ, for years. Years.
Okay, so I think there's something to that. All right, I'm not going to discount that. But then, like, Ryan and I had this conversation on my show last Wednesday, or no, it was when we were talking about it was on my show last Sunday actually. We were talking about, do these guys actually believe this shit? Does a guy like that guy from Pinnacle of a Man? Does he actually believe this shit? I have been advocating for yes, I think these guys actually do.
Hey, you swung me to your side, I'll give you that.
And that's the thing, is like, yeah, there's certainly, John, yes, jealousy might have something to do with it. That's the first thing that anybody presumes. Like when I was critical of Jordan Peterson back in the day, before it was cool to be critical of Jordan Peterson. Back when I was actually, it's funny, it's like people don't realize this, but the way that the Red Man group got started is because I think 4 of us wanted to get together and sort of hash out what it was that we agreed with Jordan Peterson and what we didn't. And it was
That's true. That was episode 1.
It was episode 1. So bear that in mind while the president of the Manosphere is trying to tell you how great Peterson is, or how I shouldn't be, attacking his daughter when all I do is repost a picture of him and Tate, or of her and Tate. But anyways, I honestly think that, there's some jealousy. The first thing that anybody accused me of when I was critical of Peterson was, oh, you're jealous. It's professional jealousy. He has more stature and more fame than you. And it's like, no, I'm trying to say why, excuse me, why he's not red pill, why he's very much a blue pill, particularly when it comes to intersectional dynamics and his wife and all that other kind of stuff. And all I'm doing is just presenting that. And people, they did the same thing with Vox Day. When Vox Day wrote his criticisms about Peterson, he's got a book called Jordanetics, right? People say, well, it's professional jealousy. He's just more famous than you, and you have to hit him. Yeah, there might be a little bit to that, but that's not the main point. But I think they actually believe in this. They believe in their own pathological bullshit. Like Anthony believes he's the president of the manosphere.
Well, he did get the LLC for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in Florida.
He believes in his own bull. He believes in the pathology, and the guys that are a part of that, the guys who are in his frame, Bruno, Ajax, all the rest of these guys, the guys who are in his frame, they simply, at some point, they're going to experience who he really is, and they will understand that he is not who he presents himself as.
Bruno
is
won't.
Very much autistic. Yeah, Bruno won't. Why?
Bruno, because that's exactly, I remember that was the literal thing that he said that maybe decided to leave the group was that some of us need to be good followers and good little soldiers and don't ask why. And I was looking at that, like, I gave that up years ago.
How is that a prescription for masculinity, though? I mean, here's the thing, right? All of these dudes, they're on stage saying, this is how you be masculine. This is how you be a man. And yet they're fucking kowtowing. I mean, okay, they don't work for him, and I get that. But you know what I mean? Basically, they are falling into the frame of a dude who's gone on video and said, I am the president of the manosphere. I mean, if you're falling into that dude's frame, how can you then, with a straight face, say, I can teach other dudes how to be masculine? When you're putting yourself in a hierarchy with a dude who does that. Do you know what I mean?
Like, there's people with frame that work for other people. If your goals align, like this is a great example. I'm not underneath you or Troy and vice versa and all that. We all have a similar goal and we're working together to get there. And we're all doing it with our own unique perspectives and they're all value adds to each other. But if Rollo goes off the deep end and decides to call himself the front man of the manosphere, I'll probably be like, all right, well, this was fun. We'll catch you later. And Troy, I would expect you to do the same if I started talking about I'm the London gay game monster man.
Emperor.
Yeah. The Kwisatz Haderach of the manosphere.
That would be me.
Yeah. But that's why I think it's better actually Carl, who I don't know if anyone's heard it from for a while, but he when all this was kicking off originally, he was saying, I like the idea of sort of loose alliances between people rather than something that's so structured in the way that, you know, I think ADJ wants the 21con thing to be, where you've almost got this. I mean, look, I get it. I know it's not a hierarchy. I know the dudes, if they were on here now, they'd say we're not in a hierarchy with him. ADJ's running it, and we're just, you know, we're equal with him. But you know, that's clearly not how ADJ wants it to look. That's clearly not the optics he's going for. And if you buy into that, I just think that you are falling in. I don't know, man. It just seems to me what Bruno said. It just seems to be the antithesis of what the archetype of masculinity. Exactly. Well, Tate wouldn't fucking say that, would he? You know,
I mean, nobody on this panel would say it to each other. The only person I would say that to is Rich. If he's going to teach me how to be a millionaire, I'd be like, Rich, whatever you fucking tell me to do, I will 100% do that. But none of us are going to be like, oh, hey, Ryan, I decided I wanted to be your bitch. Now,
let me explain.
I wouldn't know what to do with you if you did.
Let me explain like one of my core concepts, and you know, this is going to sound like I'm glossing myself, but I'm going to say it anyways. One of my core concepts has always been that I want people to tell me if they think that I'm full of shit. Right? I have had, and people have criticized me for this, I have had an unmoderated commentariat on my blog since 2011, since I started. The only thing I delete is spam and just blatant repeated trolling. That's the only thing. If people want to tell me I'm full of shit, I'm all ears. Tell me why. Give me a real reason why you think that what I'm saying or what I've talked about. Tell me what that is, and tell me from like a real perspective. If I decide to name myself the emperor of the manosphere, I would
wait. Is Rollo cutting out for you guys too?
No.
Can you guys hear me?
No, it's okay.
It's you, man.
Fancy $700 earbuds from Apple.
I just changed to my second pair. I'm getting
it's your connection, maybe. Probably. Well, I was just gonna say,
my bad, dude. I'm sorry.
If I decided to, go off the deep end, I would expect Ryan to check me. I would expect Troy to check me. I would expect you guys to say, "Hey, man, you know, or if I throw out some idea that is like kind of half baked or sounds, you know, kind of like Dr. Phil shit, I would expect you guys to check me on that stuff.
And we've done it before, and all around.
You have done. We've done it with everybody, but you know, I would expect that. And that's I think that's the difference there, is when you get into a situation with a guy who's pathological and builds this pathological world for himself that he believes in, and you decide to buy into that. The only way that you're going to ever find out that it is a pathology and that it is just a world of bullshit, a frame that's built on nothing, the only way you're going to do that is when you counter that, when you tell him no. And that's exactly what happened when Rich told him no, that he lost his shit. I saw a side of him at that point, of Anthony at that point, where I go, there's seriously something wrong with this kid. There's seriously, like, he's got something on, he's on the spectrum somewhere. And that's at that point, I'm like, okay, what am I really getting out of this? That's when I had to second guess my own, because I wanted that shit to work, dude. I would not have gotten involved in that, because I really, and even now, I still think this, and maybe it's Hot Dude Con or maybe it's whatever, but I still think that there needs to
say it again, Rollo. Sounds good when you say it.
There needs to be a Red Pill Summit. There needs to be some kind of organized thing where guys can get together and bounce ideas off each other in real time, and do so genuinely and honestly. And you know what? If somebody's full of shit, I expect another guy to say you're full of shit. And let me tell you why. And it's not built on it's built on ideas. It's a marketplace of ideas. And that's what my work has always been about. And I don't see that happening with whatever popular idea of the manosphere ends up being, because there's a lot of interest from the mainstream right now in the manosphere. And as I said last year, this time in the State of the Manosphere address, is that the mainstream is looking for an enemy. They're looking because we're going to be talking, it's going to be this gender war that I've been talking about for a long time is going to be intensified in the coming election cycle. They need an enemy. They need something cute. They need something that's memorable. And alt-right is a dying term right now. I will guarantee you that they're going to start calling it the manosphere. There's going to be these red pill guys. It's going to be these guys like this. And who's going to be the face of that? Is it going to be the president? Roosh? Is it going to be the president of the manosphere? Who can we make the most fun of? Who can we make the most ridiculous? And if Anthony wants to step up and be the president of the manosphere and put that kind of shit out there, don't be surprised when mainstream media picks up on that and they use that to ridicule you and to destroy you by yourself, by you giving them that ammunition, by you becoming a parody of yourself. Don't
happen to Dignity, man.
That happens. And you know what? Right now, he's probably listening to this and he's going, I don't care. That'll be great, man. More people will come to my event. You know, I'm the president. Yeah.
But, do you think he's listening?
For what? But for what? For what purpose? For what end? To aggrandize your event, or to actually put a message out there, to actually help guys, to actually take the noose off of guys' necks, to take the gun out of their fucking mouths? Is that what you're about? Or are you about like, oh, I need to get more people here?
Hey, Anthony, if you're listening, please smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. You can get these content in your feed real time.
Or is it the truth?
Ooh, Rollo, too. You know what you were talking about, that marketplace of ideas? You know what that reminded me of? Do you know what Lloyd's Coffee House is?
Yeah.
Troy should probably know this one.
Lloyd's Coffee House.
Lloyd's Coffee House. You might know him now as Lloyd's of London.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the bank.
Yeah. So it used to be a coffee house back when they first started serving coffee and not beer for the beverage of choice in the UK. The big benefit it was 2 pennies for a coffee, and it was one of the few class desegregated places in all of the empire. So you would have merchants with farmers, nobility. Everybody was going there because, you know, the same coffee that the queen drinks is the coffee that you drink. And it became the original marketplace of ideas. And funnily enough, the Scottish Enlightenment was founded out of that principle of literally guys getting together and swapping notes. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to name some kind of space after it, but it seems so cerebral and obscure that it would just make me sound like a giant nerd. So Hot Dude Con wins out in that one. But it's just what you described there is exactly what that was. You guys, honestly, if you're bored, look into it. It's really fascinating.
The name is a strategic name too, because it's on a surface level. It's going to look like, oh, who the fuck's going to go to Hot Dude Con? But the guys that get in, they're going to come out with a lifetime of value. And then we're going to do it old school. We're just going to about word of mouth, and it'll grow. it'll grow. Mark my words. I don't have to prove anything. You guys will see. You guys will see.
That's just it. There's no argument anymore. I know everybody jokes around about postmodernism, how everybody is not arguing ideas. They're just jockeying for a position. And Rollo, your last article, I think, touched on that, where people aren't arguing with ideas. They're just looking to discredit the other person so they can make themselves the moral authority, aka the president of the manosphere. But we're kind of past that now, to where argument, other than for spectacle or entertainment, is useless. That the results of somebody's one way of thinking or one way of describing things are the argument. And the results are the only thing that matters at this point. And all the talking is doing is just establishing which tribe likes you and which tribe likes them, and who's going to put more eyeballs onto a screen.
Rollo, you know what I was thinking when I was watching the old Mr. I Need TRT, Pat Stedman? You should debate him, because you would crush him. I think
give me a topic, man. You know, it's funny, is like he keeps throwing that bullshit out there. I'm like, I'm still waiting for. Here we are, 3 years later. I'm waiting for a topic. Tell me what you want to. Because if you want to have a debate with me and you want to say, well, you're a cult leader, we're going to debate whether or not you're a cult leader. That's not a debate, dude. That's just a fucking opinion, is what that is. Okay.
I don't think it's going to work either.
That's you being. We can debate an opinion, yeah, but it's like it's because there's never anything concrete. It's never like, well, I want to debate what your concept of hypergamy is. Fine, let's do it. Name the date. Let's go. Right. If you want to talk about, anything concrete, I'm happy to talk about it.
And it's going to be like, we got to set this up. It's going to be like when you first go into prison and you got to beat someone's ass. Like, we just need to set this up, and you need to beat his fucking ass into a bloody pulp.
See, here's the thing. That's to me, that's just YouTube blood sports, is what that is.
It is, because and you saw an example of this. TRP Red, the Legends of Men guy, wrote that 90-page pamphlet. And Troy, for as well written and as well read as he is, even he couldn't get through it. And apologies that you had to suffer that one. Red Pill School, to his credit, actually read the entire pamphlet and did a proper debate formatted. Here's my rebuttal to it. And the guy gave his rebuttal, and they went back and forth 2 or 3 times. Here's what's going to happen on this. Red Pill School went back and he's like, okay, this is inconsistent. You're saying you don't like these people, they're degenerates, and you want to have a better moral framework, but you didn't define the framework. So I'm asking you, in order to critique it, tell me what your moral framework is. To which the guy responded, shut up, Rollo's an asshole, and you guys are evil. And he goes, okay. And he tried it again, and this time he used, grade 8 language as opposed to grade 12 language. It's like, all right, then, what is it that you want me to talk about here? Because you make no sense, and here's inconsistencies. And I'm asking you again, just define what it is that you're saying is better than what you're critiquing. And then the guy responded again, with just a plain ad hominem. I'm great, you're stupid, shut up. And he goes, there's no arguing, there's no debate, there's no disagreement. There's just this self-aggrandizing guy who's living in his own head, talking about his own thing, completely oblivious, and in some cases illiterate. And so there's nothing you can do to that other than to point at him and laugh, which you can do already. You don't need Stedman in front of you squawking about how he's great and you suck and he loves fine wines and women smell like greatness, and when you're sitting down you shouldn't undo the top button of your suit jacket like a normal person. He's just going to sit there and continue to repeat his points.
His suit isn't even tailored. His suit isn't even tailored. This guy's, oh my god!
Off the rack is best rack.
I know. Tanner should dress him down. Hey, Tanner, you got a client right there.
Got no money if you're not tailing your suit.
What I see a lot of, and again, this is them trying to establish frame. The part that I could get through with the Huntsman or whoever the fuck he is.
Oh, you tried it too?
Yeah. Jared Trueheart, which is a Trueheart, by the way, is a Care Bear. Just so you know, Trueheart Bear. It's true. And so Trueheart Bear decides he wants to come at me, and of course everybody piles on. It's like, here's the thing: is Anthony has nothing, it has nothing to offer. There's no substance there, but all he'll do is get the guys who will buy into his pathology. They'll say, "Oh, you're going to write a book about Rollo? Great! Here, yeah, we'll get this guy to write we'll get Bruno to write the foreword to it, and we'll go and pump it out there for you." Right? They don't care. And what I see coming from guys like this, from Trueheart and from Glow, is they want to turn the red pill into an ideology. They want, because it's part of that same straw manning technique. This is what the red pill is, and we're going to knock it down. That's what it is. And so all of any critique that they come at us with, what they're saying is that you're a You are an ideology. And so we have to bring you down to our level, because we're going to argue this case from the perspective of you're an ideology, we're an ideology, and our God can beat up your God. That's what it comes down to. And it's like, as soon as you say, oh, as soon as you get into that framework with them, as soon as you get, like you were saying before, Ryan, like, what's your moral framework? As soon as you get into that, and you even call it, that's why I insist on calling the red pill praxeology, because it's not an ideology. You can use it for whatever ideologies you want to. It's a toolbox. If you happen to be a tradcon, you happen to be a MGTOW, you happen to be an MRA, whatever, take these tools and do whatever you're going to do with them. But this is the intellectual, this is the rational, reasonable framework that I'm building. I'm not building an ideological framework. I'm saying this is the body of evidence. This is the empirical stuff right here. Do with it what you want to do with it. But they can't argue those. They have to turn it into an ideology, because that's the only way that they can have an argument, because they can't argue empirically.
Like the saying
so
of
they argue from being a believer. That's what they are. They're just believers.
Well, I did finish the book, actually. I did finish the pamphlet, and
credit where it's due.
Yeah. To me, it seems like all of these guys have the same. It comes down to the same flaw, which is broadly that because they buy, and I appreciate that the dude Red Pill School was trying to drill down into what is your moral framework, but regardless of what it actually is, these dudes are coming at what they see the red pill with their sort of ethical, basically quite trad framework, and their base mindset is things should be like this, and the red pill says things are like this, so therefore that can't be right, and that seems to me there's a sort of a, and I sense this with people like Jordan Peterson, and also Pat, and all of these dudes who are on that sort of trad side of the fence. There's a sort of even though some of them are very intelligent, obviously JPB, etc. There's a block because they think things have to be a certain way, and they can't countenance the idea that perhaps human nature is unpalatable in some respects, and so then they have to push back against it, and that seems to be an intellectual failing on their part. They just can't, because of their beliefs, because of their deeply held,
they can't see past it.
Blue pill beliefs, let's say, they're not able to intellectually get past that, and so there's a cutoff point to their
Which totally
analysis.
Makes sense too, because then they refer to everybody who's red pilled as degenerate and hedonist, as if a lot of us want this to be the way things are. I think nothing would make any red pill guy happier than knowing about unconditional love, and that girl from high school will love you unconditionally no matter what.
Yeah,
if that was thrown at me as like a viable thing that could happen, I'd probably take it up in a heartbeat.
Man, my fourth book is really going to ruin these guys' lives. Really.
What is the counter to, like, what's the counter to being degenerate? Like, I don't know, Troy, you're degenerate. I'm a degenerate. I'm having a good time, aren't you?
Well, they're following the king of degeneracy. I mean, at least that's what he's billed himself as in the past. So
yeah, but that's the Christian thing of as long as he accepts Jesus, we'll forgive him for all of his sins. That's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Should versus is. Mm-hmm. Red pill is. This is this because I saw it. I've experienced this, and this is my notes. And somebody else is like, yeah, me too. Is the Christian tradcon type saying, well, women shouldn't be on Tinder picking up dudes. Yeah, well, they are. Like, I'm not going to argue whether that's good, because I know I don't like it, but they're there, so you better deal with it.
So you mean the Roosh Gambit?
Yeah, exactly. It's the whole thing. I don't like bullshit at all. None of you guys like bullshit. And Troy absolutely nailed it. Should doesn't factor into the way the world works. The world doesn't care what you want to have happen and what sounds good if you have happen and what Disney decided happened in their last movie. Well, the world does what the world does. Women have their own mindsets, their own wants, their own needs, and you're just going to have to work within that framework. Well, by wishing it went some other way, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment and eventually a zeroing out moment if you decide to go too far away from what reality is going to do.
One of the things that Jared Trueheart says in that book is that the red pill sort of missed an opportunity to become a force for good, if you like. It missed the opportunity to sort of transcend its basis within, critiquing the sexual marketplace and make better men or something. And my response to that is, well, why should it? I mean, that is a different function. If you want to do that, that's something different to what the red pill offers. I don't know, Rollo, would you agree with that? I mean, he's basically saying, okay, so you've uncovered these truths, but the red pill hasn't, I suppose it's the old thing of hasn't grown beyond that, you know, and there was this opportunity to make better men as a result.
Why doesn't my airline offer bus service?
And it's kind of like, but that's bullshit. This is about understanding the truths or understanding as best as we can some of the truths about the way that human beings interrelate.
Right. And that's hard, because I think what a lot of guys do is they see what I write, and even these guys can't go a fucking show without quoting something from my book or talking about a principle from my book. Even DDJ can't go without talking about my book to some degree. But I think that it's not so much the information, is how do they process that information. One of the reasons I always talk about guys in the terms of like being blue or being purple pill is because they can't escape that idealism, like that hope. I talk about this in my upcoming 4th book about when you present red pill information. One of the reasons guys get nihilistic when they are presented with that, with becoming red pill aware and seeing the world as really what it is. That's one of the reasons why we use the Matrix analogy. One of the reasons why they can't handle that is because they built up a life or an existence around those blue pill fantasies. Now, what happens is those blue pill fantasies are also interwoven with their belief set. It's interwoven with how they were raised as a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or whatever, you know, however, whatever their religious, their beliefs, or even like, you know, crystals and woo-woo magical new agey stuff. Okay. Same thing. Or even to an extent, MBTI, Myers-Briggs, is a belief set. It's a belief in that this is something, right? I wouldn't say it's an ideology so much, but it's a belief that, or Scientologists, like we'll run Scientologists up the flagpole for having these ridiculous beliefs, but that's how they exist. That's how they survive. And so when you say, guess what? All this time you've been told that the sky is green or purple. Well, here, look, the sky's actually blue. And you give them that empirical, you know, evidence, so that empirical, or even just the thought, just the idea, like the question. It's not even so much like showing them stuff in terms of black or white. It's that you had the audacity to ask them the question about something that attacks their ego invested belief set. And when you wrap that up, when you wrap that into religion, when you wrap that up into politics, when you wrap that up into ideology, which is why they want to argue it from ideology, when you wrap that up in there, it becomes that much, they reject it. But not only is it's not enough to reject it, it's to find some way to destroy it, to tear it down, because it made them think about something that destroys their beliefs. It destroys and their ego invested beliefs. So when I talk about the blue pill and I talk about how feminism and the feminine imperative have assimilated mainstream Christianity right now, to tell that to a guy who is not only blue pill, but is also wrapped up in his own religion, to tell him that and to show him that and to say, to make a case or to ask him the questions, do you think that maybe your religion has been compromised because of feminism, because of the feminine imperative? These guys have a violent reaction to that. They have that, and that's what I'm experiencing right now, because notice the mindset of all the guys who have come out against Rollo, right? It's that same thing. Mm-hmm. Not only have I offended them from the position of here's this evidence, I've offended them on their belief set. And that's a really dangerous spot to be in, because now they want to say, well, it's nihilistic and it's depressing and people get despondent and blah, blah, blah. No, you do, because I'm forcing you to ask questions that you don't want to ask about yourself, because you're trapped in this idea of what, just like Ryan said, what should be, what ought to be. That's not what the red pill is. This is how it is. This is the empirical evidence. And you know what? If you don't think that that's the empirical evidence, tell me. I want to know. That's part of the whole process. That's part of it. We have that conversation, but just having that conversation is enough to destroy that belief set. And then what happens is these guys become ego invested, meaning that it becomes part of their personality. That belief set becomes a part of who they are. So when the empirical evidence says, ask these questions, it's not an attack so much on the belief set, it's an attack on them personally. And so now I'm dealing with I've got to unplug a guy from the blue pill. I've got to have him question his ideological belief set. And now I'm also attacking him in his person Well, what do you think's going to happen when you get a guy? And then you're dealing with a guy who's like probably mentally imbalanced to begin with. Yeah, that's a pretty volatile hot. Now you know why I want to make sure that I'm safe and my dogs are safe and my wife is safe and my daughter is safe, so people don't go stalking me or them. And you know, because I said something that put a question in their mind that destroyed their entire existence from the time they were born. All of those things that built them up to, like in the case of George Bruno, 60 years old, 70 years old, right? It built their lives up to that. And they've been believing and basing their entire life on that. And you go, you know what? All that time you spent, it was wasted potential because you didn't have this information, because you believed in this, and the world is actually like this. And that's the hardest part. When people ask me, like, why is it so difficult to unplug guys from the matrix? Like I see all this stuff because there's so many existential investments that they have that they can't let go of. And so, they become despondent. Yeah, they become nihilistic, because when I talk about kill the beta, or when I talk about the 5 stages of unplugging, that's because those are the 5 stages of grief after a death, or accepting your own death, right? And so why do we make that comparison? Because that old person is dying. That old blue pill guy is dying. All those old beliefs that built you up to where you're at right now. When guys get angry, they're not angry at women. They're angry at themselves for having believed all this crap for so long. Well, how do they respond to that? Some guys can't handle that. Like the guy I was talking about earlier, the guy who was at the 2017 convention. He was thinking about suicide. He was like, he couldn't believe all this stuff. And he's like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You know, that kind of stuff. That's a reaction. Some guys go, yeah, this is great. This is awesome material. I can use this. It saved my life. I'm done with my old ex. I'm moving on. I'm living a better life because of this. There's that guy. And then there's the guy who has that ideological investment that's just been destroyed, and his existence was based on that. And just asking the question, not even just showing him, saying, this is the way it is. I'm not like pontificating. I'm just saying, have you thought about this? Well, no, I don't want to think about it. Don't let me think about it anymore. You know, I want to.
Well, here, actually, John, I was just going to say, we're going to call it on this one. Yeah, end us off on this one. Then tell us about your stuff, and then we'll go down the circle and give everybody a quick primer. Anyways, finish your thought.
I was just gonna say, my ambient's kicking in. I gotta go. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, so I'm starting to feel loopy here. So no dude party this Saturday or next Saturday. I'm actually going to a business convention in Phoenix, Arizona, from Thursday to Monday. I'll be having Hot Dude Con there Saturday, but I mean, it's just for my guys only. It's completely free, by the way, for the guys that are watching, so I'm not charging money or anything. And then just keep an eye on my show, because I come back on the 12th of November, taking a little bit of week off, and the 12th of November I begin the full production, the Tokyo Crypto Show, Interview with the Man, and Dude Party, and then Rule Zero. I'll have another Twitter account up by then, and I'm going to take Ryan's advice and not get banned this time. And man, I love you guys. I mean, you guys are awesome. It's great to be on show with you guys always, and I missed you guys in the private chat, but I shall be back, and look forward to being on the screen with you guys again. Thank you so much for having me today, Rollo.
It's Ryan, man. He's hosting.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
All right, Troy.
We're thinking about you, man. We haven't forgotten about you.
Good stuff. It's been a great show. In terms of my stuff, you can follow me on my YouTube channel. So just look up Troy Francis on YouTube. I'm doing a podcast on Mondays, and then I'm doing 3 videos a week at the moment. So 3 sort of advice videos talking about issues like this and different things. So look at that. You follow me on Twitter at Renegade Playboy. I sort of spam everything out on that anyway, so you'll find all the links to everything on that. My collection of 10 books about dating, game, and the sexual marketplace is called Renegade Dating Blueprint, and you can get that currently for the ridiculously low price of just $39. So the link is, I'll put the link in the comments for the show, but also if you go to my Twitter, Renegade Playboy, you can see it there. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I always like having you, Troy. I know Rollo and John love you too. All right, Rollo, end us off here.
All right, here we go.
What's going on with Rollo?
So I will be doing my show, Rational Male 101 with Pat tomorrow. As far as I know, everything's all good. We probably will be talking about the Katie Hill thing that was I talked about that on his show yesterday on his radio show, and we'll probably dig into that a little bit. I don't know exactly what the topic's going to be, but we will be on regular time, which will be 4:30 Eastern. Go check out my channel. If you haven't subscribed, do so, get the notifications. Also, I think if you are watching this, you're probably already a subscriber of Ryan or myself, but also remember we do have a Facebook group for Rule Zero. So if you're ever wondering where the next show is going to be, like whose channel it's going to be on, you'll find it there. Hopefully more than a day in advance, coming up soon. But so I'm trying to stay a little more active on Facebook these days too. I am now on Facebook as well. So if you want to come be my friend, I'm accepting all friendship requests, even the fake girls with the big tits. Yeah, well, the fake accounts. I have to actually look at those things now to say, oh, is this really something? And then I am doing my own show, of course, on Wednesdays. I'm going to see if I can't get Andrew Tate on my show for this Wednesday. I've been meaning to talk to him, but because of my schedule and because of my work schedule, like Halloween is a very busy time in my industry, as you might guess. So I'm finally kind of getting back to normal again. Like the 2 weeks prior to Halloween is really kind of nuts. So I'm getting back into it. I'm going to see if I can have him on. If not, we'll see. I'm probably going to end up doing another episode of Religion in the Red Pill very soon. I want to get Abu American on. He's a Muslim guy that I've been wanting to talk to and interview for a while. So I've got that lined up as well. I want to sort of pick his brain a little bit. I'm also almost done with this fantastic book called Alpha God by Hector A. Garcia. He's I should say Dr. Hector, because he is an evolutionary psychologist, and he sort of breaks down sort of religion, like Abrahamic religions, as from an evolutionary perspective, like an evolutionary psychologist perspective. It's really fascinating. If you're red pill at all, or if you call yourself red pill, or you're even just curious, read I was just talking about how it's like it sort of tears down how the red pill kind of tears down a lot of guys with respect to their ideologies and everything else. Don't read that book unless you're ready, unless you're prepared for that, because that will really make you think. It'll force you into thinking about things. So I'm really liking it. I hope Ryan will pick it up too, so we can have some conversations
on the
about
list.
it.
It's on the list.
I have a very short list of books that I endorse. That's definitely at the top of the list. So anyways, that's me. I'm still in the first round of edits of book 4. For people who are asking, I am expecting publishing it sometime in Q1 of 2020. So maybe as early as February, maybe as late as like early March. We'll see. So that's where I'm at.
On that note, Troy, it's got to be late where you're at. I got to go enjoy my Saturday and go screw up November in the best way possible. So I'll catch you guys later.
All right.
Good stuff. See you later.
All right. And we're off.